And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 17th round of the 11th season of the Bandit Racing League, presented live, as usual, on Full Send Racing Network. We are here tonight, folks, at Talladega. Not a Talladega night. It is afternoon right now in the sim, but it is a big one here, folks. Talladega 125, presented by the premier team right now in the Bandit Racing League, GFR Racing. And one of their biggest sponsors is, of course, Perfect Shot Auto Spa, who we want to shout out now. First of all, thank you, as always, to Perfect Shot Auto Spa, but more particularly to Kevin Foster, Nick Nickerson, and the rest of the GFR Racing team. We also want to thank Apex Sim Racing as one of your primary sponsors of the series. They support us each and every week and help keep the lights on here at Full Send Racing Network. Hi, everybody. I am, as always, Marshall Crocker Jr., back once again for another awesome week of Bandit Racing. And we were off last week, folks. You guys were on a different channel. Those of you that hopefully stuck around and jumped over to our associate friends there at the at Core Racing League and all of their partners, and it was great. It was awesome that we had Chris was able to stick around, and hopefully this week back to the old crew. We got Chris here as usual. Hopefully we'll put on a show for you guys, because tonight is a big one. Tonight is the cutoff for the round of 12 here in the Bandit Racing League playoffs. 12 drivers come in, only 8 drivers will still leave with a chance at a title. And Chris, this is so exciting. Welcome back into the booth as always. We're ready to get this done. And I mean, Talladega, Chris, I know I'm pumped. I know you sound pumped, and the fans should be pumped as well. And what is it about these super speedways that just makes for an action-packed show?
Oh man, I mean, it's Talladega, baby. I mean, it's just the unpredictability of this race and how action-packed it is, side-by-side racing, you know, wide open, and it just anything can happen. And it's that excitement of not knowing what's going to come next. You know, for one lap you're sitting 15th, the next lap you're in first. So you just never know. And I think that as not only a driver but a fan just makes this place so exciting.
It really does, and so many fun storylines here coming into tonight as well. We're going to show you right now. The first time we'll show it to you plenty, because keep these numbers in mind. This is your playoff bracket heading into tonight's race here at Talladega. So remember, the top 8 drivers in points in this round, plus the drivers that are punched in automatically on a win. So it'll be the drivers that make it in on wins, and then the rest of the field until we have 8 drivers. 8 drivers will make it through and remain in contention for the Bandit Racing League Season 11 title. And right now, those 8 drivers in the playoffs are Nick Nickerson and Brett Guzik, who automatically punched their tickets with 2 wins for Nick and 1 win respectively in the round for Brett. They have won all the races within the round of 12. And then Christopher Hamilton for GFR Racing, as well as his teammate Ricky Hart Jr., comfortably above at plus 17 and plus 14. Kevin Foster of 10 above the cutoff line. Benjamin Lacey, who missed a race, has fought all the way back to be 9 above the cutoff line. Then Bivens, Mark Allen Bivens, and Connor Gibson, 2 of the youngest, brightest stars in the series, both have fought their way to stay above at plus 4 and plus 3. And then there he is, folks, the fan favorite, Cody Welch, sitting below the cutoff line after last week's race at Chicagoland. He sits 3 points back at the cutoff. Will need to make up those points tonight or get a win if he wants to make it to the round of 8. And then Eddie Hagge, 6 points down. Jackson Knock, 13 points back. And Curtis Yancey, mathematically, can only make it into the round of 8 with a win. It's winner you're in tonight for the driver of the number 51 car after just not necessarily a terrible, it's been a relatively good season for him overall. Was second in the regular season, don't forget, but just hasn't had the luck, unfortunately, here in the playoffs. So I'm actually going to throw it to you here, Chris, because we're going to talk more about the track here in a moment. We're going to talk about what to expect, and we're going to go through each of your drivers, mostly on the cutoff for tonight. We're going to try to focus on the guys that are really trying to make their way to the round of 8, because the guys that have thrived this season, we know they're going to be, we know we're going to talk with them plenty next round. They're already pretty much in the playoffs. If you're about plus 10 or above, I think Hamilton, Hart, and Foster, I think, are pretty comfortably all into the playoffs as well. GFR has just done incredible in the round of 8. Round of 12, I should say. But let's actually throw up the graphics here, Chris. I want to throw up your prediction graphic from a few weeks back here. At the start of the season, before the playoffs, we posted our graphics predicting how the playoffs would go. And right now, I was saying before the race, your graphic is almost perfect. The only drivers you have in that are not in at the moment are you have Cody Welch and Eddie Hagge making it in, and the drivers that are currently in, you have Bivens and Gibson, who are in the top 8 right now, and you have bumping out. The way the season has gone, first of all, what in this round has surprised you most? And do you anticipate your bracket may still come true tonight with the drivers that you have set to switch places?
Well, I certainly think I have a shot, right? I think that, when I picked my bracket, I thought about the drivers that are being super consistent all season long. And obviously, to get into the playoffs, you have to be pretty consistent to begin with. But it was those drivers that have that extra little bit of consistency over the others. And when I look at who's out and who's in, I still think I have a chance to get that. I mean, for the drivers that would unfortunately be on the opposite end of that, I don't give them any knocks to that, no pun intended. But I think that it's just the pressure in the playoffs has kind of led to this. If you look at Cody Welch, right, he's one of the more consistent drivers all season long. He's been knocking on the door for wins, and he's been really pushing for wins, and that has compromised him in some situations to go out there and get a win because he's trying to make those late race passes. But nonetheless, I think that's kind of showed in this playoffs. He struggled at the Roval. He ran out of gas in the last lap, and him and Eddie Hagge got together battling for the lead last week. So I don't think that it's a necessarily lack of speed or talent. I think it's just a bad luck, and that just kind of compounds race after race. Do I still think he has a shot tonight? Absolutely. He just needs to keep his car clean, and I think you'll probably see a little bit of strategy to that. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but I still think I have a good shot tonight to move on to the next round with my playoff bracket still intact.
Yeah, and to sweep the round, to get all your predictions correct would be absolutely nuts, and would be in much contrast with our race picks this season that have been, actually yours have been quite good, but mine have been definitely questionable at best. Now looking at my graphic that I had at the start of the season, my bracket that I made in our Bandit Racing League bracket challenge, I stand by most of my picks. Obviously, Cody Welch right now is sitting at 9th. I had him up in 3rd there. That may have been a little bit optimistic. Not optimistic, maybe that's probably what we would have expected, but definitely not the way that the cards have fallen here in this first round. But Connor Gibson is above the line. I expect him to. I think he will consistently stay there tonight. I think he will just be one of those guys that maybe really thinks about the big picture, doesn't get in those big battles. He kind of steps away when things start to get dicey. Maybe not towards the end, because every driver in this series wants a win, no matter who you are. And then Curtis Yancey, I think, could very well still win his way in tonight. I would say don't be surprised if that 51 car shocks and makes it in on that win. But yeah, I think my bracket's got a little bit further to go, because obviously Welch has to jump in. And we'll go to the race picks here in a moment. But I actually think somebody that isn't in the playoffs right now will jump their way in here on a win tonight. So that is going to be exciting to watch. Very quickly here, just to give context for the rest of the season, we want to show this graphic, and very quickly, one thing to note is there is a mistake here on this graphic. We don't have it visually fixed, unfortunately. But one thing I do want to mention is that the week after Richmond and the round of 8, so Michigan, Bristol, and Richmond. We have a week off next week. Not that it's switching. We're not switching to a different network. We just have a break week built into the schedule. So we will not be here next week. On the 12th of July, we come back from Michigan, Bristol, Richmond, and then Phoenix will be the week after on August the 2nd. So there's 4 races actually in the round of 8 for round 2. So be here, prepare to be here August 2nd. We will be back as usual for Phoenix. It's not on the graphic, but we do want to make that clarification. So there will not be a week off before the finale. It will be straight into it. Top 4 drivers at that point will race for a championship. And now, Chris, we're going to talk a little bit about this racetrack, because obviously Talladega, one of the most famous venues, and all of not just NASCAR racing, but racing in general. Of course, the famous movie. Everybody will mention Talladega Nights, and as they should. That movie is incredible. But just generally speaking, Talladega, I mean, it's similar to Daytona in many ways, but in a few key ways it's different. And I think the most notable, as we see Curtis Yancey running over it right now, I think that late finish line in a track that is so built around photo finishes. Think of all the photo finishes you've seen at Daytona, guys coming right up to the tri-oval and the way they time their moves off of turn number 4. Well, here, you are going straight to the almost down to turn 1. You have that late delayed finish line. I think that could definitely play an effect. But what other differences do you think are between Daytona and Talladega from your experience?
I think the biggest thing is how wide the track is. I mean, I think they say that it's not actually that wide, but it certainly feels a lot wider. I think there's an extra, a lane for another car there. As you're going, you can go 4 abreast pretty easily here, in my opinion. So I think it's, how wide it is. You just feel a little bit more secure. I think that Daytona gets a little bit more cramped in there, and you don't feel as safe. But I think that is one key factor here, is that you can kind of spread out a little bit while doing that 2 wide, 3 wide racing, and still have some room to breathe. And it takes a little bit of pressure off. I know, most drivers prefer Talladega. And obviously, as you were mentioning, that late finish line there, you have to time your run to try and pass that leader to ultimately get the win or make that pass for the lead just a little bit differently. You usually try to time it coming out of Daytona 4, whereas here you're trying to probably time it coming out of the tri-oval there, and you're going to see a lot of guys test that yellow line, and that's something that race control is going to be looking out for. So yeah, definitely key factors here is that finish line and how wide this track is.
Watching here in qualifying, we go on board with him, and Eddie Hagge immediately jumps up to P1, and this is a big night for him here, Chris. He's below the cutoff line, 6 points his gap up into the in the money spots. The 97 car, this is one that he has to have circled on his calendar, and he's been decent at the super speedways in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised really at all if he were to find a way to get it done tonight. And I think we'll even tie this into our race picks tonight, Chris. As far as guys that maybe below the cutoff line that you want to sneak their way in tonight, or just who's your money on based on a combination of mentality and the type of racing Talladega usually creates?
So it's really tough at a track like Talladega. Obviously, you have your restrictor plate tracks or super speedway tracks, specialists here, and we do have a handful of them. But I just think that it is generally kind of a guessing game as to who wins, and anything can happen. But one guy that I've had my eye on for a couple weeks, and he's currently sitting at the top of the charts here, Eddie Hagge. I think that he's going to get it done tonight. He's had a lot of momentum, and I know he had a little bit of bad luck last week at Chicagoland, but he's been super quick, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of him. He has a lot of confidence right now, and I think that's what you're going to need here tonight to pull off some of these blocks and ultimately get the win.
Yeah, I think almost for your exact same reasons, just a different driver. I'm going Jackson Knox, driver of the 00 tonight, as my race pick. He wasn't near the top of the leaderboard in practice, qualifies 15th here now in this field of 28 cars. Really good grade we've got tonight. Get ready for some competitive racing here. The guys love the super speedways for a reason. And I'm going to go Jackson Knox. I just think that 00 has something to prove. He has a chip on his shoulder. I think as a guy who has been in the upper echelon, has been in contention for one of the elite driver statuses. He's pulled off a number of podiums this season. He's been really good, obviously one of the younger drivers in the series, but I think it would just kick it into a different gear to make the round of 8. And he's been really, really good at the super speedways in the past. I noticed looking at the statistics, he has finished at every super speedway he's ever run in the Bandit Racing League. He's finished 8th or better, including, I believe, 4 top 5s in his last 5 races. He has been incredible at the super speedways, Daytona or Talladega. And a number of those young guns racing drivers, the younger faces in this series, have been really good here in the past, especially at working together and staying out of trouble for the most part. And this includes Mark Allen Bivens, who we see now just pulling off the racetrack. He'll qualify 9th, a few spots ahead of Jackson Knockdown in 16th. But as we go to the grid here for tonight's starting lineup, I just see those young guys having some success. And interesting here, Chris, as we get ready for the starting lineup, both picking guys that we think are out of the playoffs. How much of that mentality of having something to prove and having everything to race for, nothing to lose, how much of that plays into who you pick tonight?
I think that certainly plays into it a little bit, but I think that Eddie is really rolling right now, and over the past, pretty much since the last couple of races of the season, I've just seen a different driver there, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of him. And last week he was leading there in the closing laps before him and Cody got together, and I just really think that he has something figured out, and he's racing with a lot of confidence right now. So hopefully that carries over in tonight. He doesn't necessarily need to win tonight. I think that he could still point his way in. It's very possible, but I'm thinking that 97 is going to be fast, and it certainly shows here on the speed charts for qualifying.
I think you are absolutely right, and that brings us to Eddie Hagge here for tonight's Perfect Shine Auto Spa starting lineup, courtesy of Perfect Shine Auto Spa and GFR Racing, tonight's race sponsors on behalf of the league. Here we go, Eddie Hagge, playoff driver number 97. He comes into tonight again with a lot on his mind, a lot he's got to do, and he will roll off in the number 1 position tonight. To his outside, Nick Nickerson, the man, the 2-time winner, your defending winner at Chicagoland last week. It has been an incredible season for the number 2 car, and now tonight he comes into this one with not much to work on, not much to do, but we talk about momentum a lot. And let's not forget, these super speedways are a type of race Nick has come close to winning, but still has yet to win in the Bandit Racing League. He's got a lot, personally, I'm sure he wants to work for tonight. Nolan Gross starts on the inside of row number 2. Really good job again by a fellow Young Guns driver in the series, driver of the number 02 car. Alongside him is David Lakey in the number 84, who is going to grid here momentarily. Christopher Hamilton for GFR Racing still has yet to get that win himself. He's come close here at the Super Speedways in the past. He will start in the 5th position. Kyle Fahey makes his return to the series in the number 88 car. He will start on the outside of Mr. Christopher Hamilton. Back in the series here, Dawson Guzik, driver of the number 44 car. New paint scheme for him. Good to see he's rocking a new sweet livery there. He will start alongside Mr. Mark Allen Bivens there on row number 8, provided Kevin Foster makes it. No, Kevin Foster has jumped into that spot, so Kevin Foster will roll off here in 8th. And then Mark Allen Bivens will follow him here in a moment. We're going to go back to Eddie Hagge, but we will show you the rest of the grid here for tonight's starting lineup. If we jumped ahead a little bit too fast here, let's go back. After we have Kevin Foster, then Mark Allen Bivens, it's Ricky Hart Jr. for GFR Racing, starting in the 10th position, rounding off your top 10 in the number 1 car. Again, a guy that's comfortably above the cutoff line. Connor Gibson here in the number 31 car will start. He just needs to get good points tonight. Currently the first driver above that playoff cutoff line. Just see him stay out of trouble tonight. That's all he needs to do. Sean Britt, again, the guy that we've called kind of the playoff spoiler here, the guy that we all think should have made the playoffs, but due to missing a few races was unable to. You know, he still wants that win. He will start in 12th. Ramos on the 13th position on the 7th row, alongside Brett Guzik, also punched into the playoffs with a win. Cody Welch, going to be the big storyline here tonight, needs to find a way in 3 points below the cutoff. Will it be with a win, or will he just rack up good points to keep himself in contention for a first career title? Jackson Knock, my race pick tonight, he starts on the outside of row number 8, has potential to move up. Don't be surprised if he does. Jason Greenwell tonight has been good at longer super speedways in the past. He starts 17th, alongside Peter Murphy Jr. returning to the series in 18th. Bill Harkin starts alongside Curtis Yancey there in the 19th and 20th positions. Hayden Paul will start in 21st. Then Brandon Jackson, once again, he's been making a lot of appearances here lately. One of the fan favorites, Action Jackson, will start 22nd. Benjamin Lacey, final playoff driver. He actually needs to be careful tonight. He's above the cutoff, but not by enough that he can afford a really bad finish tonight. Let's see what he does. Paul Wilson, Matt Crockett, Terry Condis, the returning Steve Ulrich, and finally Ryan Honeycutt is your starting lineup for tonight's race. The pace car is off onto pit road. Control of the field will go to Eddie Hagge. Chris, this is a big one. Talladega 125 presented by GFR Racing. Don't forget the late start finish line here, so it will be a moment till the drivers go green. But we are on the lap pedal here momentarily. We are still waiting. Thought we might get a throttle touch there. There we go. Green flag here at Talladega. Already Kevin Foster jumping up to the outside of the line. 88 doesn't get going, but we are green. 125 laps to determine what 8 drivers will race for a title in the next round of the Bandit Racing League playoffs. Hagge controls the field.
Yeah, look for these guys to, I'm hoping, settle in here, get a little cordial here, try to settle it out and just kind of see where they're at. Keep it a little conservative for this first chunk of the race here and not tear their stuff up. Also look for guys kind of ducking down to the inside here and just falling back to the pack. Try to stay out of the big pack and stay out of trouble here early.
Kyle Fahey is the first guy we got to talk about in that regard. He started, remember, all the way up in 6th a few moments ago. He's dropped back to 11th here at the moment. He is just about to get passed as well by Cody Welch here, who's already trying to move up there on the inside of the line. Brandon Jackson up 10 spots. Started in 22nd. He is now in 12th. You can already see it here, Chris. Guys are really trying to drop to the back if they are not comfortable right now.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where it's they just want to take care of their car, make sure they're avoiding the accidents. You don't want to use your fast repair early. All you have is one. So just take care of your car and have it there for the end, because once the white flag comes out, all bets are off, and it's time to go. But for right now, let's just take care of our stuff. Seeing this top line starting to gain some momentum here on the bottom line. Looks like they have more cars here. This top line starting to come in. But bottom line is the shorter way around. I personally like the top. I feel like I'm a little bit more secure up there. Other guys like the bottom. It's just all your preference.
Question's going to be here, Chris, is the GFR Racing guys, tonight's race sponsor, how much will they try to play into each other's hands? Because you have to remember, there are 4 of them in this front pack. I mean, Ricky Hart Jr. there towards the back of it, but Christopher Hamilton may have the opportunity to jump up here and lead this line as way to the top we go. Nolan Gross gets stuck in the middle, and Foster is going to push his teammate Nickerson all the way around. Gross gets eaten up, and that's going to be something the guys got to watch for here tonight, Chris, isn't it? Just getting shuffled out of the draft and just getting gapped by the rest of the field.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing here at Daytona. You have to make sure you're locked onto somebody, and at least within a kind of sniffing distance there. You're seeing the top line just rocket around the bottom as the bottom got a little bit discombobulated there, but that just kind of shows you how much more it means when you have someone locked onto the back of that bumper. You also have to watch out for is if I don't know how much tape they're running here tonight, but how much you're locked onto the back of the guy in front of you. You can actually overheat these motors, and you're gonna pop one, and if you pop an engine right in front of the whole pack, oh my word, forget about it.
So generally speaking, for the fans watching at home that don't know much about the super speedway racing here, as we watch Nick go to the front, Nickerson picked up the spot there from Hagee last time by down the backstretch. So now Nickerson leads the inside line, followed by teammate Foster, and Kyle Fahey now has a push from Cody Welch on the outside. Welch already up 11 spots into 4th. He's got speed clearly here early on. But as we watch him go side by side, the 88 car are going to take over. Is it true to say here, Chris, that the super speedways, generally speaking, the inside line, kind of the line you want to get to once you're leading, but the outside line is the best place to pass traditionally?
I would say so. I feel like you can channel more momentum off of the top when you're coming down these long straightaways here. So I feel like the top is the place you want to be if you're looking to pass, but the bottom is where you got to defend. You get a nose in there and you get shuffled out, you get put in the middle lane, you're going backwards in a hurry. So you can kind of see that here with Eddie Hagee off to start this race. He's kind of dropping back a little bit. I actually don't mind that. Your pick, Jackson Knock, has actually fallen back, or hasn't actually gained that much track position since the start. And I actually like that. Stay out of the hornet's nest, as I like to call it. Just sit in the back for the first chunk of this race and let things settle out and let it come to you. But another thing you do have to keep your mind on, traditionally, when we have green flag runs in this series at a plate race like this, you have to stay attached to that lead pack. If you end up falling off that lead pack during a cycle of pit stops, there's going to be a 3 or 4 guy group that's going to run away from the rest of the pack. So you have to stay close and you have to execute on pit road perfectly.
Yeah, I think all those, I talk about them a lot, but all those intangibles, those little details that guys miss out on, like pit stop maneuvers or little dumb penalties, that's the biggest thing you got to worry about, because that's so much more important than where you are in this line. I mean, effectively, Chris, right now, as long as you're in this lead draft of about 2 seconds, you're okay. You're in. You can leapfrog your way up to the front like Cody Welch did in about 2 laps. Like there's always potential to move up. It's just you can't move up if your car's damaged or you're not in the race. So yeah, I think right now it's that long-term chess match of also save fuel, make your late pit stops a little bit faster, and just be patient. Like it's one of those things that, especially for young drivers, I know not the young drivers in this series, but generally speaking, some of them can get impatient. They want to look flashy. They want to move to the front, and obviously they get talked about a little bit more if they're up here battling for the lead. But generally speaking, the guys we remember, the Mark Allen Bivens who won here at Daytona, not Talladega, but won at Daytona last year in a very similar race. You don't do that by dominating and being a big fixture. You do that by just being in the right place at the very end of the race and having good teammates, good guys to work with. And both the Young Guns drivers and the GFR drivers have that. And here comes the GFR driver on the top side. Ricky Hart Jr. going to make it 3 wide. Really good push by Michael Ramos.
Yeah, I think that these GFR guys are trying to look to somehow link up, and I think they eventually will. They'll probably all pit together at some point and kind of stack themselves all up and kind of make themselves a unit here. Just the single car line of GFR cars, and that is some trouble to deal with. But another driver that's marched his way up to front, currently sitting in P3, Brandon Jackson, from all the way back deep in the field up to P3 in just a handful of laps. That's pretty impressive. But another thing that kind of gets overlooked is when you're making those flashy moves as you were talking about, ducking in and out of traffic, trying to get up to the front. Guys are going to take notice of that. And for me personally, when I saw people that were making those kind of moves, when it came towards the end of the race, I'm not working with them because I know that, number one, they're probably going to bail out on me and I'm going to be hung out to dry. And number two, they're probably going to cause a wreck. So if you're going to make flashy moves here early, just know that it's going to hurt you later on in the race. The guys that are just staying nice and neat and nice and cordial, tucking in line, as we've seen Brandon Jackson make a move to the outside of Cody Welch here. We got a big run from the 97, the back of Cody Welch. But as you see guys that are going to make those kind of risky moves here early, that's going to hurt them later on in the race if they don't play their cards right.
Yeah, the fact that we've been 3 wide here for so long now was really interesting to me. I mean, it's fun to watch, but as far as competitively advantageous, perhaps not so much here in the long shots. So interesting to see. It's a lot of the experienced guys too. Here's to see Brandon Jackson narrowly get in front of Kyle Fahey for the lead. My goodness. And now Ricky Hart Jr., really good run next to the wall there. So these experienced older guys are really pushing it right now, and everybody's spreading out there. Everybody checking up into turn number 1, trying to find their groove. It's really fascinating. Now Cody Welch here going to jump out to the outside. He may think about a move to the lead, and yeah, really good run off at 2, but doesn't really have the help, so he's going to have to tuck back in, may start dropping back, as the 1 car going to fly right to the outside. There goes Cody Welch, going to be stuck in the middle. Not the way he wanted that attempt to go, but obviously long race, and no real disadvantage here to moving back at the start. But I do want to quickly talk about, as Brandon Jackson jumps to the lead and Ricky continues to attack up top, the second line led by Benjamin Lacey here in the back, they're starting to make up a little bit of room. They're actually working quite well together. But if you're Lacey, Condis, Ulrich, Crockett, Harkins, Paul, Greenwell, Lakey, or Honeycutt, you're just kind of trapped out there in no man's land right now. You really got to get that draft going, because obviously Chris, long race, but if you go a lap down there that far off the pace, that's a whole different roadblock to overcome as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge here, because you got to think about how big this track is. 2.5 miles. You know, that's a lot of time that you're losing, and it's so tough to make that back if you don't get yellows. And I don't think it's been done since, you know, Bill Elliott back in the day. So yeah, that's another one of those things. And as you saw there with Cody, you know, he went out to go make the move, and once you're out in the air like that by yourself, it's like that spoiler on the back of the car is just a parachute, and it drags you back like you're standing still. And it gets so frustrating, because you're looking for help, and the guys that you think are going to help you, and they have a run that's so big that they can't. If they try to duck in behind you, they're going to stack everybody up. They're going to cause a wreck. So you just kind of got to take it and you know, go to the back. But yeah, that's just like the mini game within Talladega. This probably looks pretty easy there to the viewers, but this is actually super tough, because you have a lot of trust in the guys on the side of you.
Yeah, most certainly. This is always tougher than it looks from a racecraft perspective. And to the point goes somebody very interesting, Curtis Yancey, the one guy in the field tonight. He is win and he's in. Anything else, he goes home. He has to win this. He started 20th. He's up 19 spots, now leads the race. The Clearwater, Florida native. This could not be bigger for him. And right now, he just stay up there if you're Curtis. You know, you want to lead because you know you got to win this thing, but just make some friends. You know, try to be as, you know, as under the radar as you can be, I think, and maybe sneak out a win there at the very end is his best bet. Now Dawson Guzik going to jump to the front, pushed by Brett Guzik. So the Guziks now working together. Really nice paint scheme in that Easy Go number 04 car here tonight. Brett Guzik's debuting, as well as Dawson Guzik. Two really nice race cars, followed by Sean Britt, Peter Murphy. Some new faces here to the front as Connor Gibson leads the inside line.
Yeah, I think that's a dangerous combination there. I'm going to call it the 4's wild, the 44 and the 04. That is something you got to watch out for. I mean, two brothers working together. I don't think there's going to be any better communication, or it could be terrible. You never know. But I think that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with here tonight. And another thing that you want to keep your eye out for is you can't stay out front of a lead pack too long. Similar to how you see IndyCar and on Indy, they swap the lead back and forth every once in a while. You want to do that here. You don't want to stick out in the front of this pack, breaking the air for everybody else, because everybody else is getting off throttle. They get to the back of your bumper and they let off a little bit. They get to the back of your bumper, let off, just kind of push you up. There's a bubble of air between the bumpers there that kind of pushes you forward. So that is something you want to keep your eye on, especially, you know, as we go through this race. Who is getting the best fuel mileage? Because that can be big when it comes down to the end. Because traditionally here we have green, white checkers. I mean, I don't know about any other night, but here at a transfer race, I think that we may be in store for one tonight.
Just wanted to highlight there that Benjamin Lacey and the rest of that backpack have caught up. Good job by those guys, you know, leapfrogging each other properly and working their way back into the contention for the win. So now 23 cars, a group capped off by Jackson Knock, all within 2.5 seconds, are all in that lead front pack. So, I mean, that says everything you need to know really here, though, as this front pack, though, is starting to break away, and Cody Welsh really is the guy on the bubble as this pack led by the two Guziks runs away. This group of 11, Cody needs desperately to stay on the end of it here.
And one thing that I'm starting to notice here is that you have the GFR Racing guys and the 785 guys. You know, they're kind of falling back together, and we've heard in the past that they're officially working together, and I find it very interesting as you look in that second pack. Cody's starting to fall back to the 2. The 2 has the 8. The 8 has the 15. You have the 1 right there above them, and the 7's right there in the mix with them. Then up front, you have the 04, the 44, the 97. Connor Gibson's up there. Sean Britt's up there. Those are all guys that have been known to work together in the past. So you're going to kind of see these team alliances here hooking up, and they all want to stay together so that way they can pit together, and that way they can maintain the most optimal speed coming out of the pits.
It is really fascinating because the parallels to real-world NASCAR here at Talladega or Daytona are so prevalent. You know, that idea of guys or manufacturers working together and how certain teams tend to dominate here long runs. And Dawson Guzik is one of those guys. I remember him a number of super speedway races in the past. He's always a guy who's up there front running a lot of the race, similar maybe to how like a Penske does in real world NASCAR. So it's just funny how some guys kind of fall into archetypes and race a very similar way. But we're actually going to see an interesting view here of as we see Brandon Jackson here pushing hard on the outside line. He may jump up to the lead, but Sean Britt, who currently sits in that orange number 98 car here in the pack, running a pedal camera here, or a full sim cam here tonight. Really interesting to see his full setup he's got. And you just watch here. It looks like your foot to the floor for a lot of it, but then you watch maybe the brake tapping, you watch the throttle movement. It's a lot more technical than it looks. And the rules for North Carolina native, again, as a guy who's not in the playoffs, but definitely has a lot that he wants to achieve, wants to get that first career win, he's going to want to be very careful here. And throttle management, one of the biggest ways to do that, although right now is starting to really fall back.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that is exactly talking about there is you're not only working the throttle, but you're working the brake. Sometimes you want to kind of put a little brake in the car, you drag yourself back to the guy behind you. That way they can't get that kind of, we'll call it the Talladega Nights reference, the slingshot. It's the slingshot around you, because if you have too big of a gap, they're going to use that aerodynamic advantage and just drive right by you like you're standing still. So you want to keep yourself close enough where you're getting a push and you're not getting yourself too far ahead. As you're going to see here, the 84 of David Lakey, he actually had an internet connection issue to start the race. He actually started from the pits, and subsequently he was not in the draft. So it looks like he's going to go a lap down here, but he's got to be really careful as these guys are going to keep coming around him in a hurry here. So this is another one of those things. Once lap traffic starts getting involved, it gets a little dicey, as we're seeing here now.
It's getting hairy. Kyle Fahey right in the middle. He was moving around a little bit. I was worried we might have something, but he gets it settled out. Now Nolan Grove's going to tuck in behind him. Same with Mark Allen Bibbins. So the Young Guns guys starting to pack up a little bit. We stay safe right now. Everybody goes right to the top line, and we continue on scot-free here. We'll keep an eye on David Lakey, but right now he's settled into the pack. He's actually found himself a little spot here, and will remain okay for the time being. But back to the lead goes Brandon Jackson. I think he and Dawson Guzik so far have been the two dominant race cars. And these guys who know how to lead the pack and know how to properly receive pushes.
Yeah, and leading at a plate race is very, very tricky because, you can have the guys behind you racing side by side and you can generate a pretty decent lead, maybe 8-10 car lengths. But that is not what you want to see. It's actually the opposite. You want to be in relative close distance to the guy behind you because, like I was saying, they're just going to get a sniff of that draft and they're going to rocket past you, and then you're going to be like pretty much a lap down car where you're trying to navigate your way through with all these cars just humming by you. So it's definitely a different kind of racing than you traditionally see at other tracks like a mile and a half, where you don't want that big, unless you're working together with a group of like 4 or 5 guys and you're trying to break away from the rest of the pack. You do not want to be a single car on this.
Just to answer a question we just got here in the chat, how many laps on a tank of fuel? That is a great question. I don't know if you know, Chris. I certainly don't. And it's one of those things that under race conditions with guys drafting on each other will be the only way to really detect what the average is going to be. So we will find out at the first pit stop. We will be as excited as you guys at home. I don't know if you know, Chris.
I don't know. I know that we run different fuel tanks for certain racetracks. I'm not sure what it's set tonight. I would say traditionally in the past at a track like this, it's usually around 30 laps. So we'll have to see here tonight what the fuel mileages. Some of these guys have been burning more fuel, like a guy like Brandon Jackson who's been up front. He's definitely been on the loud pedal more than the rest of these guys here tonight. So he may be ducking down pit road on the first cycle here, but some of these guys may be able to stay a little bit longer. And you know what that means. You're getting guys trapped a lap down, possibly, and then we're jumbling everything up. Another thing that I do want to highlight, the past 2 weeks, uncharacteristically, Nick Nickerson has had pit road problems as far as penalties go. So a guy that is usually super, super good on pit road, I'm looking for him to be a little bit more conservative tonight, stay with his teammates, and get on and off pit road together. But yeah, that's something that will be huge here. You do not want to take a penalty on pit road and have to come down as a single car and then go back out all by yourself. That'd be huge if you do get one of those.
Well, just one little detail I want to point out here, something I kind of created here in the background in preparation for tonight. I put together the all-time, at least as far as Season 8, so in the broadcast era of the Bandit Racing League, the all-time wins leaderboard. I was just curious where drivers sit in the big picture. Obviously, not going to be a surprise to most people here. Nick Nickerson, the all-time Bandit Racing League wins leader, again, in the last 4 seasons, so in the broadcast era. Nick Nickerson, 31 wins. Brett Guzik and Benjamin Lacey both tied in second with 10. And then Brandon Jackson, who was, I just want to highlight, he makes his return tonight. Not everybody's going to know Brandon Jackson, but it is important to mention he sits at 8 wins all time. This could potentially move him up to 9 with a good finish tonight. And he now comes down pit road. So there's a fun little graphic for you. We'll come back to that maybe in a little bit. But here we go. Brandon Jackson, can he get it wound up? Has a lot of momentum coming in. And this is the problem here, Chris. We can try to eyeball it as best we can. That looked a little bit fast, but we won't know about pit speeding penalties until they come in. We just won't see them by the eyeball test, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell here. And one of the tricky parts about getting to pit road here at Talladega is you are in that draft, and everybody is going to be moving around you. And sometimes you just cannot get down and clear yourself down to get on pit road. So there's going to be a lot of communication and a lot of dancing around here to get down. And I think this whole pack here that's on the bottom is going to be coming to pit road. And you're going to see guys getting on the brakes and locking them up, guys slamming in the back of each other. So there's got to be a lot of communication here because this is where a lot of accidents happen. And as you see them all fan out coming to pit road.
Whoa, a lot of speed coming in. Oh, we see a lockup from Britt. He might get it slowed up. 51 car, a little bit slide. Everybody, there's going to be contact. Britt, he slides. He hits Welch. Chaos on pit road. Britt, it was all the way around off the front nose of Guzik. What did we just talk about here? That was commentator's jinx if we've ever seen it. Chaos in the first pit stop here for this second group.
And I'll tell you something, another thing that I did see there that should actually be a penalty was Eddie Haggy actually missed the pit road entrance, so he's going to have to sit there in pit road, which is going to be super, super difficult to come back from because he's going to have to probably exit pit road by himself. So big name tonight, already behind the 8-ball a little bit, but yes, exactly what I was talking about there. Guys trying to get down on pit road. Everybody's trying to get what they can. You saw the 51 car there. He probably got like 4 or 5 spots on the entrance to pit road. So that's just it, being aggressive, and this is a transfer race. You got to do it. You got to get every little bit you can and try to break away. So that's going to be the difference tonight if we keep having these green flag runs, is how well you get on and off pit road.
Going to the butt kicker racing replay here of that entire pit cycle. It's going to be interesting for Britt, too. Let's watch a zoomed-in version here. Britt was really close there as well. I think he may have potentially even gone over the cone there because he just comes in with so much momentum. You see the back tires really wiggling around. The back end just locks up on him. Same with the 51 car. And it's the 98 who turns into Welch, who he clips him. He definitely hits him on screen. But I actually think due to neck code, he didn't take damage away. The front nose didn't buckle at all. But yeah, we'll watch Haggy here as well, as you pointed out here, Chris, because yeah, he comes in with just too much speed. And I think he's just following in front, you know. Right in front of him is the 98 car, Sean Britt. He comes in with too much speed. The 97 follows. And yeah, all the way around the pit entrance cone. That will be a penalty.
Yeah, and that's what I call chasing the rabbit there. This guy's driving it in that deep. I can do it too. And you see him start stretching out in front of you, like, oh man, what's going on here? So, yeah, that's a tough break for him, but it's still early. There's a ton of racing left to do. As long as he can stay on the lead lap here, I think he's going to be all right and put himself back in contention because I know we're going to get yellows later. So, as it stands right now, we're starting to see little packs break up here. So it's going to be a little bit harder to try to pay attention to who's doing what and who's currently in the points, but we have our work cut out here for us tonight, Marshall.
We do indeed, and right now, the top two, that first pack you're talking about, is minuscule. It is Curtis Yancey and Brett Guzik and nobody else for an entire second. That second pack really trying to move up now is Kyle Fahey once again leading a group of cars led by himself, then Peter Murphy, then Michael Ramos. But wow, crazy to see the jump they got. And we know Brett's historically been quick in the pits, but now this second group might swallow him right up. Here comes the 88 car and the rest of that train, although he and Peter Murphy jump up to the top side early. Other guys are going to stay on the bottom. And just like that, Brett Guzik's lead has gone away, and that really says it all. The goal is not to be necessarily in the front pack, it's to be in the big pack, and it's to be in the group you can work with.
Yeah, that is definitely the name of the game here. And as we're seeing guys shuffling around everywhere, Brandon Jackson almost got into the back of the 7 of Lacey. I thought they were both trying to go for the same real estate. I think they were trying to take a run there. That was almost in big trouble for their a playoff contender that doesn't need trouble tonight, but one that is going to certainly be in some trouble is that 97 of Eddie Haggy. I'm sorry. He is currently, on my timing tower, 47 seconds behind the lead. It's around a 52-second lap here. He's probably got another 2 laps in him before he goes a lap down, and what he needs to do is just stay in this lead pack and just hope that a caution comes out. He's got some work to do ahead of him. Not necessarily the ideal start that he wanted, but he's still got plenty of racing left to go.
Yeah, really at this point just needs to pray. Needs to hope for the best. That's all you can really do. And I just went to the Skype camera very quickly here and saw Sean Britt rapid hand movement at some point. Looks like he almost got really loose due to something. Stays on the racetrack though, so whatever that was has passed. But yeah, a guy that was so promising there takes that little spin there, goes for a ride on the pit road entry, and just like that finds himself back there in 26th, only ahead of currently Bill Harkins and Ryan Honeycutt, who did not appear to start the race.
And to speak to what happened with Sean Britt there as far as his hands moving around, one thing that you have to take into account here is when you're in the corner, you cannot get a bump. As you're going to see these guys on the backstretch here, they're going to be all over the back bumper of the car in front of them more than likely, as we're seeing them put Eddie Hagge a lap down here. But you're going to see these guys all over the back bumper of the other car in front of them. You can't do that in the corner. It really upsets the car. You're in essence lifting the back of the car up, and it's just making the car all sorts of loose. So it's a handful, but that's where you have to have communication. Some guys don't mind it if they know it's coming, but that's also knowing who you're racing with. You know, these guys that we see in kind of team alliances here, they've probably practiced all week with each other, so they know where their limits are. Or I can give him a bump here and he'll be comfortable with it, or he doesn't like when I do it here. So you kind of know. But at the end of the race, when it comes time to settle this thing, these guys are going to be pushing everybody. It doesn't matter. They're going to be all over the back of each other. But I'm hearing a lot of talk on the radio of guys talking about checking up. So got to check here and see if we can get caution soon. But seems to be something going on track somewhere.
Yeah, nothing coming through here as of yet. Just want to highlight here Nolan Gross, the Caledonia, Michigan native, who's done quite well so far. Currently finds himself in the top 10 in 9. Yeah, no caution reported as of yet. Maybe some chaos a little bit further back, but right now, Cody Welch takes over the race lead, the 85 and the 7. The two teammates going to team up at the front, though. Mark Allen Bivens now getting some help from 2 of the GFR Racing guys, and Christopher Hamilton and Nick Nickerson. There he goes to the front, former winner here in the Bandit Racing League at a Superspeedway Daytona back in Season 10. He goes to the front, and Chris, there is no doubt, playoff contender in the 76 car. He starts the race above the cutoff. You know he just wants to cap off a really good round of 12 here tonight, and former winner at the Superspeedways, we cannot forget.
Yeah, all of the young gun racing drivers are super good on the super speedways, and I'm not gonna say I don't know why, but I think they just have a little bit of a knack for it. I know I've said that the second time tonight, and there's no pun intended there, but they just have something figured out here. I don't know if it's the communication or what, just a ton of practice laps or what have you, but yeah, these young gun boys, they certainly got something going on, and 76 car has something figured out tonight as he's at the point.
Jason Greenwell goes around here a moment ago. Go to the Bucket Racing replay, see what happened to him. Did not bring out a caution, but we see here just fully spins it around here off of turn number 2. Looks like not a solo spin. He gets a push off the front nose of Ricky Hart Jr. Just a little bit of a miscommunication there. He was kind of sliding around on the nose. Ricky was sliding around on the bumper and just sends him around. We stay green, though, at least here for the moment. And Ricky Hart Jr. continues on, still currently sitting in 15th in a pack, 12 seconds behind the leaders.
Yeah, you probably won't see a caution flag for a single car wreck, but something that we're going to have to keep our eye on here is the lucky dog. So Paul Wilson is currently the last car on the lead lap. Looks like he's around 20 seconds off the lead, which is about half the racetrack. The first car 1 lap down is the 97 of Eddie Hagge. He is currently battling with David Lakey and Hayden Paul, who are friends and teammates in the series. So he's going to be battling with those guys. You see the 84 of David Lakey right behind him. If a caution comes out, it's going to come down to who is in front of who's going to get the lucky dog here, which is absolutely huge. Everybody else will have to take a waiver out. So that is a little battle with behind the scenes that we're going to have to keep our eye on throughout the race. But this first pack is, look, sometimes I think they're settling down a little bit, but then look, here we are, 3 wide. So yeah, this is Talladega, and this is why you love it.
Nolan Gross not going to jump up to the race lead, pushed by teammate Mark Allen Bivens. But yes, 3 wide here. Peter Murphy, the returning number 38 car, on the bottom of a 3 wide that also features Connor Gibson and, of course, Brandon Jackson. And we've been seeing plenty of movement around the racetrack from Brandon Jackson. He has been energetic tonight. We call him Action Jackson for a reason, and got to think here, no stakes for him. He's not worried about the playoffs. I don't think he's going to mind whatsoever if he is having some fun here, making the race a little bit more exciting on track. And right now, it's been those young guys that, again, have really dominated alongside 785. And at this point in the race, I got to point out, Chris, we haven't seen a GFR Racing car really lead for a number of laps. Not just recently, but I don't think as a whole. They've done quite well overall, but nobody really seems to be wanting to lead the race. And do you almost think that's a strategy here? Because tonight's race sponsored the GFR Racing team. They're experienced. We keep talking about it's not as important to lead as it is to stay in contention. Do you think that's a big case of what we're seeing tonight? Is just those guys wanting to stay out of trouble and just be up front, be in a good spot, be in this front pack, but not necessarily need to lead the race, because they're always there. They're just never leading.
Yeah, I think that's just a little bit more of a veteran move. That's a very veteran group, and they know what they're doing. So I think that's a little bit of a strategy there to just kind of hang out. There's no reason you don't have to lead it right now. All you have to do is lead the last lap. So I think they're just hanging out, probably saving a little bit of fuel here for the end. And they're all together. And I asked Nick last week in his post-race interview, what is it going to take to get all the GFR guys into the next round? He said, winning a plate race is super important to me, obviously, because he hasn't done it yet. But getting all the GFR guys into the next round is going to be super huge for him and that team. And I think that's what he's really focused on tonight. And I think they're all just going to be having a lot of communication on how they're going to get that done. But one thing that I'm noticing here is this top line. I think that the bottom line obviously has all the GFR guys, and they've been super quick. Has the leader of Mark Allen Bivens in it. But this top line has been having a really good run out of the corners here. You can kind of see him swallow these guys up just in the exit of the corners, and they kind of even off towards the middle of the backstretch. And I think that is something I want to keep my eyes on. That is why I like the top right there. I feel like you can just channel a lot more momentum off of the top line, especially when you spread out. You can kind of side draft a little bit and drag these guys backwards, but if you're patient enough and you just chip away at it lap after lap, you can make this top line really work, and it becomes super, super fast.
It's going to be interesting these last couple laps what the best defensive line is, because it's so rare at these super speedways you see the car leading on the last lap or leading the majority of the final stint of the race actually win the thing at the end, especially at Talladega with such a long final lap with that late backstretch after the final couple turns. So I think it's going to be fun to see if this inside line can really defend, or if, as we're about to see right now, this outside line can keep getting runs off of turn number 2, because that's been the spot all day, and almost undoubtedly, even all the way up to maybe even Michael Ramos, this pack on the outside line will jump in front of the inside and take over. Kyle Fahey actually going to be the final guy. Looks like he can jump down in front. So that group of 3, the middle car being Eddie Hagge, who I actually think might even fight to get to the front of this group just to stay on the lead lap, but right now would be the lucky dog car, so maybe he's content where he is. But David Lakey here in the 84 car, not too far back, so still a fight between 2 cars here, even if they are a lap down, as Terry Condis further back has gone around.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of beating and banging on my mic here, but I wasn't sure what it was. But you might have saw there on the broadcast as we get a caution. Who was in front of who? David Lakey or Eddie Hagge? That is huge here. Huge playoff implications.
It is Lakey on my telemetry. We will see if that holds up. It looks like it was Lakey. He is comfortably in front of him here at the green or the yellow flag. So that could be huge, because remember, Lakey, not a playoff driver. Hagge is indeed a playoff guy, and he's 6 points below the cutoff line coming into tonight. So big first caution here, presumably for that Terry Condis incident. Unless Jackson Knock here. No, he's the reason we have gone to caution. Jackson Knock gets turned off the front nose of somebody, and my race pick tonight goes around in a night that is so crucial for him. The 00 has had such a good year, and luckily maybe not even any damage, will actually stay on the lead lap because he's in a good spot. Just there you go. We said Solo Rex may not bring out cautions at all tonight. For the first time tonight, that has happened.
Yeah, that's a tough call there, because you do have a car pretty much stopped in the racing surface there. So that is a tough one. But I think that is a smart move by race control. But I can confirm that it was David Lakey, according to the transmissions that I have here in the actual game chat, that he actually is the lucky dog. So there will have to be a wave around by the 97 to get himself back on the lead lap, which is kind of maybe mess up his strategy here a little bit. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But as far as Jackson Knock there, still has a faster pair. I don't think he got that much damage. I would like to see him come down the first time, assess it, see how much damage he has. The only thing that's a problem here in iRacing is that if you have required repairs on your car, meaning that your car needs this to be fixed, there's a certain allotted time. If your car has required repairs, you can go a lap down because you cannot move the car to the pit box. If you have optional repairs, you can sit there and kind of time it when the leader's going to come, and you can leave, and you can keep doing that over and over again, kind of like you see in real life cup racing. So if I was him, if he thinks that the damage is not that bad, I would just try to take my optional repairs right now, get the car in a good enough amount of shape to kind of ride around here at the back of the pack, save that fast repair for the end, because now that we have a yellow, we all know what that means here at the Bandit Racing League and Full Send Racing Network. Cautions breed cautions, and I know it's super early, but these guys, they didn't seem like they were letting up at all. So we're going to have to see how this one all plays out, but yeah, certainly some trouble for his playoff hopes here early, but I think he'll be able to rebound.
Yeah, no reason at all to assume we won't see more going on here. And here we go. We see out of the pit road comes Michael Ramos. Will remain the race leader. Appeared to have taken less tires or something as well, as it'll be then Fahey. That's Cody Welch. Hayden Paul is in the line, but he is a lap down, so will not be counted for position. Cody Welch, then Nolan Gross, followed by Curtis Yancey, Connor Gibson, Peter Murphy, and then Matt Crockett and Kevin Foster, not in that order. We'll round off your top 10 with Brett Guzik here just after him in 11th. And now we're going to take the time to talk to a guy who's moved down to a 13th here at the moment, but one of the old favorites of the Bandit Racing League. We have known him for many years, and it's always a pleasure to talk to him. He was also requested here in the YouTube chat. We have a moment. Let's talk to Brandon Jackson here, driver of the 99, maybe find out a little bit of info about how tonight has gone for him so far from an outsider's playoff perspective. Brandon Jackson, it is Marshall and Chris in the broadcast booth. You got a copy? How you doing?
Oh, hi, hello.
Hi, Brandon. You probably weren't expecting to be talking to us tonight, but we know a lot of guys are stressed about the playoffs. They got big stuff to worry about strategy-wise, and you're just showing up. You're just a guy here on a Wednesday. Of course, the third all-time Bandit Racing League wins leader, as I've recently discovered, so that's pretty cool. But we just wanted to talk to you here, take a moment, because you've had a pretty solid race so far. Led a number of laps, and you know Talladega quite well. So tonight, put yourself in the mind of the guys there in the playoffs. What do you think they should be looking out for, and how has the race differed maybe tonight from what you're used to at Talladega in the past?
Yeah, it's different tonight. With it being a cutoff race for some of these guys in the playoffs, man, they gotta mind their P's and Q's. Where compared to somebody like me, I'm just out here for fun. They really gotta just understand how the car feels when you're trying to get the lines to work, and yeah, man, really, it's it. You know, it's gonna come down to fuel. Coming down to the later part of the race, it all depends on how that falls out, what the caution is, and how the pit stops are falling. Pretty much, you just want to make sure you are dialed into where you can make the last stop, but you don't want to fall short of that last window, and then have to end up making an extra stop for like a couple gallons of gas that you really tried to save. But yeah, man, really, other than that, man, I'm just here having fun. Playing with the side draft a lot, dumping a lot of air on some spoilers and passing them that way. So you got to learn how to play the game to get up to the front.
I see, Brandon, I was kind of worried here as far as your personality that maybe some of our more recent fans of the Bandit Racing League wouldn't recognize the 99 car because you haven't been full-time this season. But trust me, as soon as people saw you in the chat, we had people excited, we had people requesting you, and the people have requested this interview right now. So trust me, you are appreciated if you get that win. There'll be some happy people. And one more question for you, Brandon. You're Action Jackson for a reason. I know you're not a playoff guy. Are we going to see some action here at the finish if you're in top 5? Are we going to see some bold moves made?
Oh, yeah. 99 does not go out. I'm either ending up on a flatbed or I'm taking it to victory lane.
Or, knowing you, Brandon, could be both.
Could possibly be both. The way this is going to end, my bumper might be hooking somebody else's. Possible.
That's what I like to hear, Brandon. Go have some fun. Great to talk to you, my man. Good luck.
Yeah, have a good enjoy the race.
There you go. Brandon Jackson. Always a pleasure to check in with him here, Chris. And yeah, like he's saying, I think he kind of touched on what we've been talking about. Just patience, just doing what you got to do and being there at the end. And the strategy, really interesting. I don't know if you saw in the background there, a number of guys pitting the second lap of the caution as well. A number of guys, including Nick Nickerson, Cody Welch, guys that did pit on the first lap, came down again the lap after. Curious, Chris, what do you think is going on there? And maybe you can take us to the green flag here.
Yeah, so I think that's just all about trying to cram a little bit of extra fuel as you're trying to, play this little bit of a fuel mileage race. But you're seeing a long line on this bottom line. That's a lot of guys that took the wave around, so we're going to have a nice and orderly pack. But as these guys are getting ready to go back going here, I think that long line of cars is going to be coming up to the front in a hurry. As we're getting on the loud pedal here, we're back to green flag racing with Michael Ramos up front here. I'm sorry, was that Nolan Gross? Can't tell. No, it is Michael Ramos.
Yes,
Michael
sir.
Ramos back up front here. So he's another guy. He's made a lot of noise here. Not a full-time driver this season, but he certainly made a lot of noise here as of late. And he's one of those drivers that I put in.
Brandon to the bottom.
Brandon does go to the bottom. I don't know if this is a strategic play to kind of get out of the lead pack here. Kind of is contrary to what he just told us, but you're seeing a lot of guys duck below this yellow line. That's them saying, I'm bailing out, I'm going to the back, and they just want to kind of ride here. So I do like that out of Ricky Hart. He's not necessarily in a position where he does need to have a super good performance, but he does need to be a little bit conservative and keep a good looking race car for the end of this thing. But yeah, with that being said, Michael Ramos, one of those more aggressive drivers that I consider in this league, and I think that I say aggressive in the most positive way possible. I think he really makes it work for him, and I think that's a characteristic that you're gonna need here at a race like Talladega. So I'm looking to see that car hopefully stay up front.
Just a quick reminder here of how the points sit coming into tonight, the playoff bracket. Remember, Haggy, Welch, Knock, and Yancey, the 4 guys pulling the cutoff right now. And the guys that are comfortable, Hamilton, Hart, Foster, and Lacey, all 9 or more points above. So like you said there, Chris, 14 points above the cutoff is Ricky Hart Jr. But it's going to be more potent tonight because a bad finish is going to mean more in a field of 27 tonight rather than the usual somewhere around 20. So it could be big. Guys who maybe thought they couldn't make it in on points, like maybe even a Jackson Knock who sits 13 behind coming in tonight, could potentially do it. It will remain to be seen. But yeah, Ramos, Gross, Murphy, Fahey, no playoff drivers in the top 5 until Welch, who leads the playoff contenders there in the 85. Luckily, looks to still be pretll quick despite the earlier incident.
Yeah, and another thing that I'm just going to kind of try to keep reminding the people at home so they can keep tabs on it. Eddie Haggy is still currently listed 1 lap down. So I'm not sure how that pit cycle worked out for him. Obviously, he didn't get the benefit of the lucky dog. So he'll be racing against the likes of Sean Britt, Hayden Paul for that lucky dog as of right now. So that is something we have to closely keep our eye on because he is one of those guys that is just 6 points out of the first 8 drivers to make it into the next round. So, as we progress, I think that it's certainly going to play a factor as far as how aggressive drivers are going to be towards the end of the race. And I think that even when he is a lap down, he's still got to stay out here and try to turn laps and hopefully get that lucky dog and put himself back in contention. But as I look here up front, these guys they're not caring. I mean, I like Brandon Jackson's mentality here. He's here to have fun. He's trying to do all these things, dumping some air on spoilers and using the side draft to his advantage. And I love that. I love that kind of exciting element that he's bringing to this race because that might just shake something up. That could be the catalyst that knocks someone in or out of the playoffs or puts someone in. He could push someone right to the front. And we've seen here in seasons past, I think actually last season, we had a wreck coming to the line for the lead, and I'm pretty sure the leader actually won because of that wreck. So we've had some super exciting finishes here tonight, and Brandon Jackson could be the reason that we do have one of those exciting finishes here tonight.
I joked about it with Brandon, but if we see a driver spin and wreck and win the race tonight, I would not be surprised in the slightest. That's the kind of racing that Talladega tends to create. So just because you get turned there at the line, you just got to have good momentum going for the finish line, and that's the most important thing. So here we go. Still, Michael Ramos remains your race leader, followed by Nolan Gross. Cody Welch having up in 3rd position. And right behind him, Nick Nickerson looking to make it 3 wins in the round, looking to go back-to-back and get that first win at a super speedway in what would be seasons, if at all. He would have had to win it prior to my time in the series, and I don't think he did. So let's say first career Bandit Racing League Super Speedway win. It is going to be a big one if he can get it, but obviously the guys around him, Sean Britt looking for that first career win, Cody Welch looking for the first win in 2 calendar years. There are other guys that have big storylines around him, but don't be surprised at all if that 2-car is in contention at the end. And very quickly here, I want to shout out Jason Greenwell, who currently sits in the 26th position. He is currently multiple laps down, but he's still fighting to remain on that front pack. If he can stay at the front of the group here for the next caution, he would take one of those laps back.
And speaking of shout-outs, we got to shout out Jackson Down here. He's sitting here in the top 10, you know, just staying in the fight. I think that he probably opted for that fast repair just based on the speed of that car. He could have not. He could have just taken some optional repairs, and the damage could have not been that bad. But he's sitting here in the top 10, staying in the fight. You know, it's pretty easy after a wreck like that to get really down on yourself and say, oh, man, what am I going to do now? But he's staying in the fight, and I just commend him so much for staying with it. And being such a young driver, I think that's so important. It's so nice to see that he has the tenacity to kind of stay up here and say, yeah, I'm not giving up just yet.
Yeah, the Milwaukee, Wisconsin native continues to have personal teammates as sort of in the equation. Although I'm looking for him. Where is, maybe I missed something. Markel and Bivens is cycled back here to 21st position, back in a two-man tandem with Steve Ulrich. Did I miss something here? I don't remember this happening, Chris.
Prior to the caution coming out, Bivens actually cycled out. He opted to duck below the yellow line and just fall to the back of the pack, and I think that put him towards the back, and he could just be sitting back there hoping on a caution later in the race, saving his stuff, keeping his car nice and clean, so that way when it comes down to 10 laps to go, it's go time. I know personally that was always my strategy. I know in seasons past when I did run in the Bandit Racing League, there was a race here, I believe it was actually at Talladega, where I specifically did not want to get into that lead pack of about 20 cars. I just stayed right outside of it, just hung around all race, and I think I brought home like a 6th place finish that night, just because everybody wrecked in front of me and I had a clean race car. So that is certainly a strategy you can do, and if you don't necessarily need to win, that is one easy way to just secure yourself a good finish tonight. You know, you have to bet that everybody's going to wreck in front of you, which, if I'm a betting man, that's going to probably happen tonight. But nonetheless, if everything goes according to plan, he should see himself sitting up here. If that does not happen, he's going to be in some trouble. So you're taking a little bit of a gamble there doing that, but I think it is a wise bet.
You see, I would generally agree. My only problem is, again, you get out of that lead pack, and you never know what's going to happen. And the reason I say that is because he has dropped back all the way now into the 21st position, so not great points, even with a couple wrecks, but more importantly, 15 seconds back of that lead group, and only a couple laps here running outside of the main pack, and that's just going to grow and grow. So I just think it's dangerous. I like the strategy on paper if you can team up with a number of other drivers. Right now, just a noticeably important 88-car race leader, but he's third in the lead pack as both Sean Britt and Jason Greenwell looking to get a free lap back here as they both jump up in front of your race leader. But yeah, I think I like the strategy, but you got to have guys you can work with that mean that you're not really stuck out in no man's land losing time. You're out of the lead pack, out of trouble, but you're still making pretty good lap time. And right now, those guys just aren't. I'm a little bit worried long term, but again, a yellow comes out, and you never know what could happen, and that could definitely shake things up here as Peter Murphy drops below David Lakey, who is now back on the lead lap and suddenly goes from fighting just to stay on the lead lap. So now the 84 car sitting up here in 5th. Really good turnaround for a former playoff contender.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more as far as that strategy play. You know, with him starting to drop more and more time, he could find himself in a position where he has a perfectly clean race car and he did actually nothing wrong. Similar to Eddie Hagge here, who just missed the line coming to pit road. He has a perfectly clean race car. He hasn't been involved in any wrecks as of yet, and he finds himself sitting a lap down, trapped, but he's running up here in the lead pack, and that's got to be super frustrating. But Mark Allen Bivens, he could quickly here in a handful of laps find himself in that position if they cannot get going. And it's so tough when you're just presumably here, as I'm looking at the speed chart, a 2-car group. When you have a car, a group of like 7, 10, 12, 15 cars just coming racing towards you, it's going to be so hard to, keep that advantage from not growing, we'll say. So you're going to have to certainly keep an eye on that, because having 2 playoff drivers that have storylines tonight, Bivens isn't necessarily safe. He just needs a solid run. And Eddie Hagge needed to race his way in. Those 2 guys, that can be huge. Automatically, if these guys stay a lap down, they're not going to gain any spots. They can only get as high as just racing between themselves. So we're going to definitely have to keep our eyes on that.
We come back to the start-finish line for the start of lap number 50 here at Talladega, coming up towards the halfway point. And obviously tonight, a long race. This is probably the longest race on the calendar this season, kind of a marathon here rather than a sprint, and it needs to be, because this race is it's the most important, most impactful we've had on the calendar so far this season, as guys really starting to shuffle around here in the mid-pack. But as we see, whoa, somebody way to the bottom. Brett Guzik really dropped at the last second there. Now moves back up, almost tangled with Dawson Guzik in the 44 car. But it's just such a big race that I feel like to have it be this long is quite fitting. And it's so fascinating here, Chris, just how many guys up front that have been up front all race, like Kyle Fahey, who's led a number of laps, like Dawson Guzik, like Brandon Jackson. Not guys with playoff implications, but their points and their positions between playoff guys still matter. So they're going to play a huge role in how this race ends. And I'm excited because I was worried if we didn't have as big of a field as we have tonight, field of 27 active cars, we may not have had a huge difference between positions, and points may not have played a huge role in the playoffs. But right now, if a Jackson Knock, for example, is able to do quite well and a Bivens or a Gibson isn't, you could absolutely make it in on just points here without winning if you're like a Jackson Knock or an Eddie Hagge. And that would have been impossible if we didn't have this many cars. So I'm glad that we have a good turnout, and I'm glad these guys that aren't playoff drivers are going to play a role as we got 3 wide here. Cody Welch on the bottom side, no help, but David Lakey might come form up 85 and 84. Going to need to team up to get that 85 car back to the front.
And I love that we saw a little exchange there of the 85 got to the inside of the 44, and instantly the 04 car jumped up to kind of keep the 44 car from falling back. So those guys are clearly having a plan tonight, and they want to work together. And if you look at it, that middle line there is all former BC SimSport drivers, whether current or former. So I think that is something to keep your eye on there as well. But yeah, that's just communication. Hey, I got stuck to the middle. Come up, and all your guys are going to start trying to help you out and pull you along there. So that is very important. But something that I'm starting to worry about now is I'm seeing Mark Allen Bivens is 21 seconds off the league, and I'm hearing, oh no, I heard wreck, but that was just someone pulling down there at a rather odd time, but nonetheless, yeah, Mark Allen Bivens is starting to approach that point where he needs to start thinking about what am I going to do, and it's such a hard thing to be in because you're just hoping that pit cycles come and you can kind of restructure where you're at, or a yellow comes out and you can cycle back up and get to the lead pack. But oh man, my heart would be pounding if I'm him, knowing the position I'm in points.
I think just in general at this point, if I'm not a guy who's comfortably in the playoffs, this is where it starts to hit. Every lap you got to think those nerves are building and building and building. And yeah, I mean, 70 laps to go. I mean, if you're a guy who maybe you don't necessarily think you're a favorite for the championship contention, but as a driver, you're always wondering what if. If you're a Connor Gibson, you're a Mark Allen Bivens, you're a Jackson Knock, you're an Eddie Hagge, you're one of the younger guys that maybe hasn't been as proven in the playoffs, you're maybe not wondering, can I beat the Titans of the series? You're going, how far can I push myself? And to imagine in 70 laps, all that hope at a title, or the round of 8, or maybe even make the round of 4, could all go up in smoke. And I feel like those nerves definitely going to start hitting, and that's why I think we're going to see some pretty raw emotion, especially if it's a younger guy that wins this race to make the final round, or even from a guy like a Cody Welch, like a Kevin Foster, from some of these guys that this race is going to build tension for. And if they're finally able to achieve that big win, it's going to mean a lot. That's why I love watching races like these. It's down to the bottom goes Britt again. Brandon Jackson continuing to lead as Brett Guzik now going to jump to the point.
And something that we haven't really talked about that too much tonight is a guy that you just mentioned there, Connor Gibson. Connor Gibson is sitting 3 points to the good over Cody Welch, who is currently behind him. So if the race ended right now, Cody Welch does not make it into the playoffs in the next round of these championships, which I think is absolutely astonishing given the season that he's had with how consistent he's been. So I mean that just shows you how important it is you got to stay in touch with these guys. You got to know where they're at, and I know Connor is probably checking his telemetry, and he probably has that 85 car highlighted to know where he is at all times. And anything can change. You get a good run, or you get a bad run, and you're falling back to the pack. So that is just another game within the game here. Those playoff drivers want to know where their competitors are on track, so that way they can gauge, do I need to make this pass right now, or do I just wait?
I think that's another great value of having teammates, having guys that can pass you that info, that have the time to invest in doing that research. And yeah, if you're a guy like a GFR Racing team, I think you know exactly, if it comes down to it later, how much you need to score. I think the only guy really underwhelming here would be Ricky Hart Jr. if he can't work his way through the field. But I mean, again, they're in a really favorable spot here. Kevin Foster as well. He's mid-pack. He should be okay right now. But it's interesting. That's one thing here, Chris, that myself personally on the sim, especially in a NASCAR, like stock car context, I've never been a part of those big teams. I don't really know what the dynamic is there throughout the race as to how in-depth you're getting with the big picture perspective and how much info you're trying to pass around, especially if you're somebody who, obviously focusing on your own race, but you're comfortable in the playoffs. I'm sure you have more time to invest in giving that big info to your teammates.
Yeah, I mean, especially at a track like this, it's constant communication. I remember Brett's championship run. You know, we knew that he was probably the biggest competitor for Nick Nickerson that season, and that's ultimately what it came down to, was those two. And you know, obviously we all want to do our own, you know, due diligence and try to get as far as we can to the playoffs, but we were really focused on Brett and making sure he had a good shot against Nick. And it's just about communication. Hey, we would probably one of us would stay with Nick and say, all right, he's pitting now, and that would tell Brett when to pit. And it's just, those are things that you don't see when you're so far separated apart on track. But another person that their luck may be getting worse here is that the 76 of Mark Allen Bivens, his drafting partner, Steve Ulrich, in the 25 right now. I just heard him key up. I only have 3 laps left before I have to pit, so he may be a single car here out on track, and that spells trouble for that 76 car, who is definitely fighting to stay on the lead lap and keep his playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, sitting solo here as a solo car is a death sentence at Talladega. That's going to be brutal if that's the case. So yeah, you just try to stay with him as long as you can, and then just hope you can keep that 25-second buffer to the rest of the field. And now Bivens actually going to come in now as well. Yeah, I thought, both cars, Ulrich and Bivens. So I like that call, Chris. I like that they're trying to come in together, but that's compromising the strategy for sure for Bivens to only do well, that would have been a 20 lap cycle here. That's a quick stint, and to be the first guy in pit road is going to be less beneficial later, but I like that they're trying to leave together and keep that 2-car tandem together for both their sakes.
Yeah, that's absolutely what you have to do, and even though you could probably stretch it a little bit more, you're going to lose more time if you just stay out by yourself. So the better route move is to stay out on track, or stay with him and be out on track together. So yeah, I think that you're going to start to see a couple cars start to cycle here, but just remember, we saw, and you pointed it out, that cars were coming in to top off on fuel a second time. I think that's going to be super important. This is a 2.5-mile racetrack. This is a big racetrack, so you can actually save a lot more fuel or gain an advantage if you were to pit that second time here. I'm hearing a lot of guys keying up, we're pitting. So that detriment that we thought Mark Allen Bivens was in, it doesn't seem like it's going to be that bad. But here we go again with the pit stops. Let's see see if we get clean on and off pit road here.
We're going to watch on board here with Dawson Guzik. Yo.
Big move on the outside. I can't tell from how far away I am on that car, but big move on the outside. Looks like he's carrying a lot of speed in the pit road. We'll have to check and see if that was a pit road penalty, but looks like they got on pit road pretty clean here.
Yeah, Sean Britt came in with a lot of momentum we saw here on the outside. He comes into his box first, so if not a penalty, great piece of pit work. If it was a penalty, that's going to be unfortunate there for the 98 car, but we will see. So everybody except the GFR guys, and as well as Cody Welch, Curtis Yancey, and Paul Wilson, as well as Benjamin Lacey. That is your group that is pitted. The only GFR guy to have pitted there on that last cycle was Ricky Hart Jr., who pitted a full lap ago. So he was very light on fuel, and now he came out on lap number 19, lap number 59, I should say. He's in 19th. Here we go. Down pit road comes Foster and Hamilton, and the GFR guys, a lot of speed, a little bit of lock up there for the 8 car. But looks like we're all clean here. So now everybody in the field has made their first pit service of the day. And back to the front, Brett Guzik, full 2.5 clear of Brandon Jackson for second once again.
One thing that I do want to point out is obviously you have the teams kind of coordinating when they're going to pit, and they did pit one lap later, which I think is definitely beneficial to their later hopes in the race if we do get a green-white checkered that's going to help them out. But one thing I do want to point out, and at least in real life NASCAR racing, Cup racing, with this specific car, and I believe, so I've heard, it does translate into iRacing, is that the Fords are the better pushing cars, and obviously the GFR cars are all Fords. They're all the Ford Mustang, but the flatter nose on that car just makes for a better pusher, and I want to keep my eye on that, because once all 4 of those cars are linked up, I want to see if towards the end of the race if they can make some, pretty big moves there. The Chevys, you know, I don't think that there's that much of a disadvantage, but just the way the rear bumpers of the rear bumper and the front bumper of the Fords line up, it's just different than the other cars here. So I've been told that translates, but we'll have to see later here in the race.
Well, then that's a good piece of tidbit info to know, and that is why I'm going to give you some context here. We don't have a graphic for it, but I will tell you the make and manufacturer for each of the teams. So Benjamin Lacey, who now leads for 785 Racing, he runs a Ford. Cody Welch runs a Chevy, so that team does not run a uniform car. GFR Racing does. All the GFR Racing cars run Mustangs, not just for tonight's race, but they do in general. Then it's Chevy for Yancey. Then it is Chevy for Jackson, Knock, and all the young drivers. So Knock, Gross, Gibson, Bivens, they all run Chevys. Christopher Hamilton, again, for GFR runs a Ford. So does Brandon Jackson, Michael Ramos, and then Guzik, and all those Guzik-affiliated cars are Fords. Only one Toyota in the race tonight, and it is Peter Murphy. So Toyota not particularly popular in this series or in this particular race. But yeah, if that Ford piece of info is the case, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch. Although I have to say, of those Ford drivers, I can't think of one of them that's won a super speedway race in the past at least 3 seasons. So looks like guys maybe either overcoming that difficulty, or maybe we've just been waiting for a big Ford win here in the super speedways in the Bandit Racing League. But right now, group of 5 leading here up front. 3 Fords, 2 Chevys, and then this next group led by Jackson Knock is Chevy all the way back to Jackson.
Yeah, it's actually funny you bring that up. I don't think I've ever taken a race-winning photo and made a race winner graphic with a Toyota in the picture. Now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever done that, because you just don't see guys run those too much here in this series. I know in the Xfinity series, people like to run the Supra. That's a cool-looking race car there. So just with this generation of Cup car, just not as popular as the other ones.
Which is, I mean, it's kind of sad. I think the Camry's a decent-looking race car, but I've always been a Mustang guy. I think the Ford's the best-looking car here in the series. Definitely the next-gen car. That next-gen Ford Mustang, maybe it's controversial. I think it's the best-looking NASCAR ever, full stop. Yeah, some of the old, the guys from the 90s, even back to the Superbird and all that. We're not going to have that conversation, but I personally take the new Ford Mustang over anything. But not the point. Back to the front, 785 teammates, 1 and 2 right now. You're a Cody Welch fan. Could you be any happier right now, Chris? Is there any better scenario for the 85 car?
Yeah, it's certainly looking pretty good for him. I mean, he's there with his teammate. He's doing what he has to do, obviously. Sitting there in second place. Where's Connor Gibson here? Connor Gibson's sitting behind him, and if the race were to end right now, Cody Welch is in and Connor Gibson's out. So that's just how quick it can change, and that's why I like this format. So Cody doesn't even necessarily have to win right now. He can just throw the checkered flag. Benjamin Lacey wins another one. Cody Welch is finishing second once again, and there we go. He's in the playoffs. But that's not what we have here, and we have a long race in store, and I think we're just getting started, because this is about the point of the race where guys are going to start losing their patience, and they're going to say, you know what? I need to get to the front. I need to get there now, and I want to make sure I'm solidifying my position up front. Because we really have, I'm going to say 3 separate packs here, or 4 separate packs here on the track. You have the lead group, then you have another group about 6 seconds behind, you have another group 10 seconds behind, and then there's one right behind them with 19 and subsequently 30 to 39 seconds behind. So we have a couple separate groups here, but that lead pack, you want to make sure you're at the front of it. And to me, if I'm in these groups, I want to get to the front of them and just stay there. Screw the gas mileage at this point. It's at that point in the race where I want to be up front.
Well, it is important to mention right now, you mentioned that right now, if we were to finish the way we are, Welch would be in if he wins, out if Gibson stays, or with points. He would be in, and sorry, you said Gibson would be out. Right now, actually, both would make it in. It's Mark Allen Bibbins who's the one that really has to work his way up through the field. He was only 4 points to the good coming in. Right now, he sits well behind his contenders. I mean, you got to think he's competing with Gibson, who is now currently sitting in 9th, so he'll get 11 spots on him. Welch, obviously, currently in 2nd. That's 18-point swing. And even Eddie Hagee right now is not particularly in a favorable spot. Obviously, he got in that earlier trouble. He's currently sitting in 22nd. I don't think he has really no chance right now unless he makes considerable progress of making that cutoff without a win. And then Foster right now is the other one to watch. He is actually not in a stellar spot. 18th would fall back 10 points so Welch would pass him. Gibson would pass him. just in points. And I'm thinking big picture, what would that do to him? So if a Jackson knock or a Curtis Yancey, actually Curtis is the interesting one, because Curtis would gain 15 points on Kevin, and it would be a big swing. But if Kevin Jackson or any of these non-playoff guys wins, and Kevin Foster can't move forward in the field, he's somebody for the GFR team we've talked about very little as somebody who's pretty safe. He could be in trouble tonight. So nothing's a sure bet. I think we will, at the end of the night, when I update this graphic and we show you guys how close the points get, there will be guys we don't talk about tonight as being particularly near the cutoff that surprise us and almost miss out.
So, Marshall, what you're telling me is, outside of Brett Guzik, Nick Nickerson, and presumably Christopher Hamilton, throw them in a magic 8-ball and see what you get, and that's what we're getting for our playoff drivers.
Exactly that. I think Ricky's in a good spot too, but even he's not. He's 16th right now. It's not stellar.
How do you not love that? Like, I mean, that's just what makes this so interesting, because it's the race within the race. I mean, like, you have these guys, I need to pass one more guy, and you never know. We've seen it in seasons past, whether it's been in the Bandit Racing League or in the NASCAR Cup Series, where some people just need one more position. They're going to wreck that guy, even if it's for 20 seconds. They're going to wreck that guy for that one position just to make sure they transfer. So that's something that you may see here tonight. I mean, I certainly wouldn't rule it out for a guy like Cody or Kevin. I mean, if Kevin gets the knowledge, and I'm sure they're at GFR Racing, I mean, they're almost like a Hendrick Motorsports. I'm sure that they have some kind of live graphic knowing where they are on track. I'm sure they figured that out with Nick there. But I mean, that's just something you got to keep your eye on. It's so tough to keep track of. You come into the race, and I can just speak from experience here. You come into the race thinking, I need to beat these couple guys, but by the end of it, though, you know, it's a completely different set of guys, and especially with the points racing so tight right now, it's anybody's game. And you know what changes it all? A guy outside of the playoff picture winning. That would change everything, because now you just bump the whole bracket down one, and you don't know. So this type of stuff is so exciting, and hearing it happen at Talladega Superspeedway, oh my word, you couldn't have picked a better race.
You couldn't at all. Yeah, let's do. We're actually going to do in a moment. We're going to do a through the field segment, and I'm going to outline here where we're sitting, where the points are, what each driver I think needs to do to make the round of 8, what the minimum is they can do to punch their ticket. But yeah, for a moment, we're going to very quickly take a moment, because we've kind of gotten a bit of a pack here. We have, as you mentioned there, Chris, kind of the 4 main draft packs all built out, and we're pretty uniform for now, at least until this next pit stop. Very quickly, we just want to shout out something related to the series, and of course, one of our favorite partners, which is sort of a sponsor, sort of one of our elements here in the Bandit Racing League. But that is Geezer Authentics, particularly our new merch. We have a new merch line for a guy that I don't know how he didn't have merch yet, but Brett Guzik, Brett the Jet, we're calling him here in this series, a long-time nickname, and running that 04 car. You want to get a t-shirt with that 04 tribute livery that he ran, a tribute, a throwback to his childhood era that he won with at Darlington on throwback night. You want to get a t-shirt or a hoodie with that car on it, go to geezerauthentics.com and go pick yourself up a new product there. Again, you see the prices in Canadian, that's even less in American. Really, really good prices there on geezerauthentics.com, courtesy of our series and the guys that help put on the Bandit Racing League. And all product, what am I saying? All products, all proceeds go back into the series to the Driver Points Fund to reward drivers at the end of the season for their results in the championship, like a prize payout, all courtesy of the merch you guys purchased. And don't forget, as we see here, Cody Welch, a number of other drivers, obviously the series as a whole, the GFR guys, Kevin Foster, a number of drivers have really, really cool merchandise on that shop. So go to geezerauthentics.com in the link below. It's below this video. Go check it out. As always, it wasn't working there for, I believe, 2 weeks. It is now back, fully functional. We want to go pick up some new Brett the Jet merch. That is your place to support Brett Guzik and the series as a whole. Just wanted to quickly shout that out. But before we go to our little through the field segment here, talk about our playoff guys, anybody else here you've been noticing here, Chris, that we think we should take a moment to talk about?
I think that one of the more interesting things, and we're going to have to see how this all factors out, is we get a yellow.
Ooh, yellow flag indeed. Matt Crockett, I think, is going to be involved. Yes, he is. The 10 car spinning backwards into the inside wall. Here we go. Butt kicker racing replay. What happened to the 10 car? Getting pushed by 44 car. Dawson Guzik slams into the wall. Barrel rolls over. The 10 car took a monster whack off the outside of the turn 2 wall. I don't think I've ever seen a real world crash as vicious between 2 cars here at Talladega this early on in a race. So that was an interesting scenario here. One more time. Yeah, all over the back bumper goes the number 44 car, and the 10 car just the two weren't squared up properly, and the 10 car Lamb based the outside wall, then hits the inside as he rolls down. There you go. Caution number 2 here, Chris. Changes everything. Nick Nickerson and Christopher Hamilton, your top 2.
Absolutely huge here. There's a couple developing things. First of all, I just told you a couple minutes ago that the Forge draft well together. Well, I guess I look like a liar now.
Oh boy.
So, I think that's just a combination of drafting in the corner there, trying to get everything he can, and yeah, that's a tough break for them. But who it's not a tough break for, and who really needed this caution, Eddie Hagge will be the lucky dog here in the late stages of the race.
Go.
And if it wasn't getting exciting, now it certainly is, because now you just add another player back into the mix who can potentially fight their way back in. So he's back in it, boys and girls. So we'll have to see how that all works out. But another thing that's going to be super exciting as we get to the later stages of the race, pit stops. Now we're presumably going to pit. Everybody's going to try and grab fuel. I'm sure there's going to be guys that try and, grab fuel a second time. But we're getting into that window here. We're going to have to see how this all factors out. But there may be a situation where your guys just coming in for a splash of fuel only, and that's going to come down to how much are you saving on track while trying to battle for the lead, while trying to stay in the lead pack. So this just kind of reset us here. With 50 laps to go, more or less, we have a reset button. We have a brand new race, and the intensity just ramped right up. So we're going to drop the green flag again here in a lap or two, but just forget everything you just saw. Obviously, there's some storylines going on here, but we just reset this race, and I guarantee you we're going to be using a whole lot of Evan Wall media lines here, whether it's he turned him or caution-free cautions, because I guarantee you it's coming.
And never forget, Brandon Jackson, I believe, going back to the beginning, was, I think, the origin in some capacity of the he turned him, or the origin of blowing your engine, I remember back in the day. That was Brandon's thing. I think he had a period of 4 weeks where he blew his engine in a race 3 times. That's got to be an all-time Bandit record. But, yeah, definitely those Evan Wall Media old-time catchphrases. Shout out to Evan, former broadcaster of the series, longtime friend, and hopefully a guy will have broadcast with us one more time before the end of the year. But, yeah, he's got all sorts of fun catchphrases here that are dearly missed in the series, and all I think will apply to tonight's finish. As Curtis Yancey, first guy here off of pit road. So there you go. Race leader is a guy that needs to make his way in on a win, basically. Again, points theoretically, but he'd really get lucky with Bivens, and he'd need Bivens and Gibson to crash, essentially, in order for that to be the case. Not impossible, but certainly not very likely for the both of them. Eddie Hagge, though, you're right, back on the lead lap, Chris, and just like that, all 12 playoff cars, not only in the race, but all on the lead lap. Does it get better than that?
I really don't think it does, and this is what I was hoping to see, is an actual race to the finish, because Eddie there was right in front of Brett, and they were closing in on the lead pack, so Eddie does have a good amount of speed in that car, and he certainly has what it takes. Obviously, he qualified on pole. But here's the question, right? What do you do now? Because the intensity just ramped up. He's going to be at the back of the pack because he, unfortunately had the 1 lap down. So he's going to have to cycle to the back when he gets the wave around. So what do you do now? Do you charge up to the front here with around 50 laps to go? Or do you sit in the back for the last 20 and hope that you can make up enough points on those other guys and maybe they wreck? So to me, if I'm Eddie, it's such a tough one. I'm already in the back. I'm probably going to stay in the back for probably the first 15 laps of this run. Once we hit lap 100, it's the green lights on and we're going. And that's just how it has to be. But it's so crucial that he has to stay at the front of this pack.
See, as we watch most of the field, once again going to do that maneuver where they pit on both laps of the caution to maximize their fuel at the cost of track position, which, again, I think is a pretty good call. Here we go. Eddie Hagge going to tuck in behind Benjamin Lacey here. This will be back for 14th position. So think about that there, Chris. All the way up from almost not on the lead lap to 14th out of 26, almost top half of the field. I think my mindset here is that Eddie Hagge, racecraft is like a muscle in a lot of ways. I think you have to work it out, especially at a super speedway. I think you have to have practice. You have to know what to do in the pack. You have to know what the race is going to look like here in crunch time, and you have to know when to pass at the ideal moment. And I don't think he will know how to do that, will Eddie Hagge, if he doesn't get in the pack, get his hands dirty a little bit. I don't think it's the best call to just immediately drop back out of traffic. I think stay with the group, maybe find some buddies, work with somebody a little bit, and try to build connections. Try to, as they say for my program in media, try to network, always be trying to work with new people. I think he just needs to get facilitated into this ecosystem at the front, because if he doesn't, he's just some random dude here at the end. I think he'll have a hard time working with other people and getting those bumps at the end of the race, and I think he's going to have to capitalize either on a good points finish, which might not be enough, 6 points below the cutoff, or getting lucky and having guys wreck in front of him to get the win, which never the best, most foolproof race strategy. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, and as we're getting ready to take the green here, another guy that's been a lap down for a good chunk of this race is David Lakey here sitting on the front row, so good rebound by him. But, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of this kind of racing is you have two strategies and you got to go with it. But all I know is that 97 car sees everything out the front window, and all those cars in front of him are cars for position. So it's time to go, baby. One way or another, we got to get to the front, and whether it's now or later, it's go time because your season's right in front of you. But as we're coming here to the green flag is back out, and like I said, we have a brand new race in front of us as Michael Ramos takes us down to the stripe here into turn 1.
Really weird start here. A lot of guys just opting to stick in the inside row. Nobody really jumping up to the outside. Here we go, though, folks. Front 3 cars, Ramos, Gibson, and Knock. The 2 young guys. My race pick sitting there in 3rd. Your race pick just got back on the lead lap here, Chris. So don't be surprised if some of those guys really need to win here tonight. Start to move towards the front to get some practice running at the front of the field. But everybody really spreading out here. As you can see, that wide shot. Cody Welch in the back leading this outside pack. Steve Ulrich kind of out of nowhere, the 25 car, moving himself into contention. Same with Terry Condis, who is a multiple laps down, but still in this front pack, trying to work his way up, maybe get a free lap back.
Yeah, and this is something that you don't want to see, is necessarily all these cars spreading out. I think that if they all kind of get themselves orderly here, they're all going to file into a single line, and then they'll all bunch back up, and then they'll separate in their 2 lines again. But yeah, that was certainly a kind of a wacky restart here, but Michael Ramos holding strong on that point there. But look who's in 2nd place. Connor Gibson, a guy that was just barely in the playoffs. He's staying consistent, and this is a guy that could be dangerous here late. He's been very, very consistent all season long. He's had a little bit of struggles in this round of the playoffs, but as you know, the past 2 races has turned it up here. So look for him later on in the race to be a contender because he's been having that car sitting pretty up front all night long.
I talked earlier about guys with a chip on their shoulder. I think Connor Gibson to win tonight, I know it's a super speedway, but would absolutely make a statement for him, because don't forget, prior to the playoffs, he didn't have a top 5. He got one at the start of the round, I think back at the Roval, but he didn't have a top 5. He made it in on the best consistency I think we've ever seen here in this series, bar none, but doesn't have a podium, doesn't have a win, and was the 12th seed based on top 5s coming into the season, or the playoffs, and I know he didn't appreciate that. He didn't seem to impress that he was the 12th seed, and I think that hunger, that desire to get better and to go for those top results, I think may push him here a little bit, and he doesn't need to win. I think he knows that, but gotta wonder how much he wants it there, and to just go that extra mile. Maybe the Nova Scotia native gonna be a little bit more encouraged to try something big at the end, and I'm just gonna be frank, again, we are relatively impartial for the most part, except for the big storylines, but I'd be really happy for Connor Gibson to see him get that win tonight, even if he doesn't need it for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd certainly say so. I mean, this is a kid that is in the running for most improved driver in the Bandit Racing League this season, and he's been super consistent. A lot of top 10s this season, a couple top 5s, and that's how he got himself in the playoffs. And he doesn't necessarily need to go out here and win this thing, but I think that he's certainly capable of doing it given his performance so far. But 2 guys I want to highlight that have quickly made their way up to the front. They're side by side right now. Mark Allen Bivens and Eddie Hagge here. They're both made their way back up to the front after those struggles there, being in question about their playoff hopes. But here they are. And one thing that I'm starting to notice is that 97 and that 04 car have been quite friendly tonight. I think that they may be having a little strategy here to get both these cars to the next round. Obviously, Brett Guzik has already punched his ticket to the next round with his win at Darlington and that awesome playoff throwback scheme there at Darlington, which is now part of our Bandit merch. So please go check that out, because I think that's one of the really main schemes that we've had here as of late. But yeah, Michael Ramos and Connor Gibson holding strong here at the front.
And again, with Bivens moving back to the front, he's now in 7th. I keep talking about it, but the playoff order is going to shift so much, because Bivens is now back in comfortably. Gibson is in comfortably. Welch would be out. He's in 10th, and he wouldn't make the playoffs right now. Like, that's how serious these guys on the cutoff are going to get about getting to the front. So Welch would be out. Hagge would still be out. Despite being just outside the top 11, he wouldn't make it. Jackson Knock, who currently sits in 3rd, he wouldn't make it. Jackson Knock, he can finish 3rd right now and would not make the round of 8. That's how crucial this win's going to be. And I'm just going to throw a scenario here up in the air, Chris. Knock and Gibson, if they're both in a spot where they need to get that win, I think Gibson not quite as much, but if Knock wins his way in and Gibson's the guy on the bubble, you never know. That could bump him out. And in the moment, Gibson won't know that. He'll just know you want to stay ahead of the guys behind you like Jackson Knock. I know they're teammates. I know they're associates. But what happens there on that last lap? You're going for your own season. What do you do to your teammates? Are you willing to put the bumper to somebody that otherwise you'd want to be pushing you to the win?
Yeah, I think that's probably been talked about internally with their team. And I think what really happens is once you get, 2-3 laps to go, all bets are off. And I think, your friends and after the race, they'll talk about it. But, this is your season right here. You've been grinding for all these weeks to put in a good performance. And you want to continue that in your hopes to get the championship. And there's only one way to do that. And you got to beat your competitors out on track. So towards the end of the race, there's going to be no friends. And, it sounds kind of cruel, but that's just the reality of the situation. So that's a tough one to see and obviously have to deal with, but we still have a long way to go, and I'm pretty certain we're going to get another yellow here, and that also shakes everything up. If there's a multiple car wreck and who's involved and who gets to the back of the pack, and Jackson Knock had that trouble earlier. We don't know if he's used his fast repair yet, so if he used his fast repair and gets more damage on that car, he is in some big trouble. But you're going for broke here, and it's time to go.
Off of turn number 4, going to start lap 83 this time. Coming to 43 to go here at Talladega. So we are now past the 2/3 mark, running out of laps here, Chris. And it's so exciting the way this is shaping up. And I think what's exciting about the way our order sits right now is this is going to be a guys below the cutoff gotta win situation. And 2 of those guys are currently in 3rd and 4th. So this is going to be in a situation where guys that are going to go for broke are going to battle each other to the win. And if you're a guy like you're a Cody Welch, let's say, currently sitting in 12th, as I just want to point out, Paul Wilson's ran the fastest lap of the race, so the speed's clearly heating up, a 48.23 for him. But this is a moment where if you're a Cody Welch, you're outside of the playoffs already. You're now in 12th. You're behind the guys that are trying to jump up ahead of you into the playoffs, literally all of them. But I don't think he's in a bad spot. If anything, if I had to jump into this race right now here, Chris, and just put myself in a car to try to go win this race, it might be Cody Welch, provided he doesn't still have damage from earlier. So I think being kind of in a different place on the racetrack than all these guys battling for the same playoff spot he's fighting for, don't think is the worst thing at all. And if you're a Cody Welch fan, you know the 85 car experience. I mean, Chris, would you almost rather he be back here mid-pack and not really making too much noise rather than having led most of the race like a Michael Ramos or a Connor Gibson and suddenly finding himself in a wreck with 20 to go?
Yeah, it's a tough one. What can you do? It's Talladega. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But it's just the game you play, and we've been going back and forth with this kind of ping-pong match here. What do we do right now? What do we do? At the end of the day, what I'm seeing here is Michael Ramos and Connor Gibson are up front. Jackson Knock right behind. Those are 2 guys that Connor Gibson doesn't necessarily need to win, but he's in a good position to lock himself in. I know that Cody knows that he's up there, and he's got to do something about it. So he's going to make his way up to the front. Another thing I'm keeping my eye on, look at this top line. You have Eddie Haggy, Jason Greenwell, Brett Guzik, and Brandon Jackson, and Kyle Fahey. These cars, the first 3 in that line, all teammates, BC Sim Sport. I think that's super crucial to think about as they're marching towards the front here, because once you have your teammates, you have blockers, and I think that Jason Greenwell is not going to leave the back bump for that 97. He knows how important this win can be for him. The 04 car is already locked in. Brandon Jackson's going for broke, so that's a guy that's going to make some moves and not care. So these are all important things to keep in your mind as we get to the later stages of the race. As I said earlier at the top of the broadcast, you're going to pay attention to these guys that make these moves. As you see Brandon Jackson going to the outside of the 04 car here, Brett Guzik, you're going to keep note of that. Who's going to make those moves and who's going to just test the waters. And that's all something you got to keep in the back of your mind there. I mean, these situations just keep on developing. We have to keep assessing who's in and who's out. And at the end of the day, we're not going to know until everybody crosses the checkered line there with the checkered flag out. And I think that's just incredibly exciting as we're seeing that the BC SimSport group break up a little bit there. But I would be very surprised if that 83 leaves that 97 alone.
Hayden Paul now here getting swallowed up by this line. 2 lines trying to turn into 1. Guys almost getting turned just trying to move into this inside line. I very quickly want to shout out 2 things in the chat. First of all, I think one of my favorite comments I've ever seen is tell the townsfolk to stay indoors. Eddie is inbound. I think is one of the coolest things coolest ways I've ever heard a cheer for a driver phrase. So Eddie Haggie's support tonight really coming out big. But to go throw it to you guys here in the chat, 30 laps to go, now 35 I should say. I got to throw it to you guys. What are you thinking? Just it's going to be crazy. We know that. But how do you see this race ending? Do you see more cautions? Do you see it ending under green? Do you see it ending under a wreck under yellow? And then who do you see winning? Do you think it's a playoff guy? Do you think one of the big playoff cutoff guys sneaks in? Do you think a first-time winner gets crowned? Do you think Cody ends his streak? Do you think Nick takes another win? I think we'll all cry, but hey, it would be a first career win at the super speedways, so yeah, we would make it work. We'd be happy with it. So many storylines. I genuinely think, Chris, I'm trying to think of a situation where whoever wins this race is not an exciting storyline. I literally can't. Even a Michael Ramos tonight. Tonight means nothing for him in the big picture. He's run part-time all season, but has never won in the Bandit Racing League. Has been a long-time participant. This would be really cool for him. Former pole winner, but not a former winner and proper. This would be a great storyline for even him. So if anybody in this series can get a win tonight, I think it'll be great to talk about. That's what's so exciting about this format.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And what I really think is going to happen here tonight is I think we get a new winner tonight. A new winner to the Bandit Racing League is going to happen tonight, one way or another. But one thing that I will say is, with that being said, those new winners, when they're up towards the front of this pack, there's going to be a lot of pressure because you know what's at stake. Getting a win in the Bandit Racing League is no easy feat. So, when you're coming to the closing laps, your heart rate's going to be going up. You're going to be double thinking your moves, and that's where you make mistakes, especially here when you got to throw blocks. You cannot hesitate on your moves. You have to just either commit or you just don't do it at all, because that's how you get into trouble. And, I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, as we're seeing here comes the 83 and the 97 once again with the 04 locked up, charging towards the front. You're seeing a little bit of a gap there. Break apart from that bottom line. The top line seems to be hooked up a little bit better right now. We're going to see how that works out coming towards the line here at the front stretch. I mean, it's starting to get dicey, and guys are bouncing off each other. And look, there goes the 99 here to the outside, presumably going to make it 3 wide here in a moment, but not quite enough momentum. But everybody knows the pay window's open, and it's time to go cash them checks.
I just saw Curtis Yancey in the background. He went from the inside to the middle to the outside to the middle back to the inside in about 3 seconds. He is just all over the shop right now, trying to find what's that best line. Not that he's erratic, just really trying to figure out what the game plan is going to be. As a number of guys here dip below the inside line here off the exit of turn number 2. But, again, actually gets kind of deked out by Terry Condis in the 32 car. This is chaos on the backstretch. And I think absolutely you nailed it on the head there as you were saying there, Chris. I mean, winning in the Bandit Racing League, I don't care if it's this race or if it's any other race, is no easy feat. It's incredible. If you want easy feat, there are weird websites online for that. If you want an easy feat, this is not the place to do it to get a win in the Bandit Racing League. Okay, this is gonna be a hard-fought win, and that's why I love it. No matter where you are in the pack, if you're a guy in the back, you're starting to work on jumping through. You're starting to work on making that forward momentum. If you're Michael Ramos, you're trying to focus on keeping your hands straight and not getting turned off the front end of a guy who really needs this win. And it's just so fun. I love this style of racing. The fact that I've been so pumped up passively this entire race, I think speaks to this. And it's one of those where I know there's not a pass or a big battle every lap of this race, but I hope you guys can appreciate watching at home the majesty of this style of racing and what's so fun about it. And very quickly here, one more time, playoff bracket here. At this point, heading into tonight's race, you watch the guys where they sit. Knock is currently in 3rd. He's below the cutoff. Haggie was the leader for a moment. Now he falls back to 6th. He needs a good finish. And Cody Welsh, the big guy to talk about, just below the playoff cutoff, currently sitting in 12th position.
And what a disappointment it would be for someone like Jackson Knock to say we ended the race right now and he comes home in 3rd and still doesn't make it. I mean, I just think that's the beauty in this format. I know we've said this before, but it's just the beauty of this format that you just don't know. You really just don't know. And the seas can part and you can go ahead and get this win, but oh man, it's so crazy. And don't forget, pretty soon we have some green flag stops coming here. So that's going to be huge, as we saw some guys get some penalties here. And once those green flag stops cycle, you're going to see different packs. And I just don't know what to say. It's going to be such an exciting finish.
still Ramos and Gibson. This is an interesting connection because Gibson and Knock, we know obviously, it's like, you know, not teammates. One's at Ignite RC, one's at Young Guns. I want to clarify. I think I said the opposite earlier. But no, this is just fascinating seeing. I think it's a different team besides David and Connor. I think a different team for each of the top 5 spots, which is fascinating. Actually 6, because Brandon's on a team car. Same with Kyle Fahey. So the top 7, no teammates in that group right now. And we've seen all race all the teammates teaming up. That's one of our big storylines. But Christopher Hamilton isn't teamed up with anybody right now. He's got all of his GFR guys scattered throughout the field because Nick's down all the way on 18th right now. He's with his teammate Ricky Hart Jr. But the teammate connections, they're starting to separate out a little bit. And that's, I think, is almost a more interesting angle is in these last almost 32 laps here. Can they get back together? Can all the teammates start to work back into a place where they're more comfortable? Or are we going to see a finish where just everybody's scattered, you don't know who to work with, and you just pray somebody decides to give you the benefit of a big push to the line?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because obviously you want your teammate on your back bumper. You just have that security there knowing, you know, they're back there, and you could trust them a little bit more than anybody else. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's going to not go for the win, but I'm hearing guys saying they're pitting in, and this is huge here because we still have a handful of laps to go. I still think you're going to have to pit another time after this, and that is going to be nuts with a couple laps to go.
The one thing I will say is I don't want this coming down to a fuel race. I want this to be settled on track, so I'm cool with that because this means that it's comfortably going to be one more stop. I don't think anybody will be able to go to the end with 30 laps in mind. You know, you'd have to get like 3 cautions for that, and I just don't think that'll happen. I mean, it might. Actually, I shouldn't say it won't because it's Talladega, but yeah, Haggy, Guzik, Britt, teammates coming down. So it's going to be a teammates deal on the way out. Really good call there to save lap time and make sure you stay in a good group when you get out. So just all you can do, again, we've talked about it plenty, but pit stops, be safe, come out with as much time as you can, and make sure you are as close to that lead pack as you can after these green flag pit stops.
We're going to have another set of teammates here coming down pit road, it sounds like. Maybe a large chunk of cars here. As we get a 84 got to the back of somebody coming to pit road. I think that was Connor Gibson. That's going to be huge for both those drivers. They're going to sustain some damage, and you do not need damage here at this track. It's so aerodynamic dependent. You get any damage to that car, you're going to be significantly slower than anybody else. So that is something to keep your eye on as they cycle around here.
Yeah, unfortunately couldn't get an angle on it there, but no noticeable damage to the front of David Lakey's car that I could see from my angle. Looking at it again, maybe a tiny, oh no, you can see a divot in the front hood, but I don't think it's going to be super significant. Actually, we saw Cody before with that little bit of damage he took from his incident on pit road where Sean Britt spun in front of him. I think they'll be fine. No, yeah, he didn't take the quick repair there for David Lakey. And actually, that small thing, small detail, but that's quick thinking if you're David Lakey, because I think he still has his quick repair left. He didn't take it. I don't think he needed to. But wreck! Huge wreck! Lacey hits! Teammates into him! Cody Welch again gets tagged on pit road. Caution, will it come out? Massive incident, because Yancey was in it. He's in, again, needs to win tonight. We're still green.
Huge. That is absolutely huge.
Whoa, Lacey just bumped. Holy cow, Yancey just bumped into Lacey, intentionally spun him into his box. He hit Wilson on the way in. Everything's going down now. Nickerson only just gets to his box. Did Welch take damage? He did. There is damage on the front nose of that 85 car. A little bit, not major, but will he repair it with a quick repair? Crazy stuff. We got to see a replay on that. That was just, that was like the sequel to the, if The Godfather Part 1 was that crazy incident from earlier, that was The Godfather Part 2, the greatest thing I've ever seen. Just look at this replay, the Butt Kicker Racing replay. What are we looking at here? Watch this replay here. So watch Lacey. I think he comes in quick, and that's what starts this all off.
And there's so much to talk about there because I'm also hearing that the 8 car of Kevin Foster also got a black flag in that process. So there's just so many things that are so huge as far as playoff
implication, yeah.
Implications, yeah. So I mean, wow, did this whole race just change? And a lot of guys are going to need a caution here, but that's just guys trying to get everything they can on pit road here late in the race, and guys locking it up and stacking up on top of each other. But wow, that is so many big names in there. Lacey, Welch, I mean, Nickerson was involved. Foster got a black flag apparently. I mean, that is huge, and 3 of those names there are fighting for a playoff spot. Lacey's currently in, but not by much. So, man, this is going to certainly shake things up.
I'll just say straight up, if Foster goes a lap down here and can't get the lucky dog, I think his season's over. I don't think he's far enough ahead that he can make up for how quick these guys are below the cutoff, how far up the order they are. I don't think he can afford that. Correct myself as well. You guys watched the replay. Welch did not take damage. He avoided that wreck. The two guys managed to perfectly spin around him. He just dodged it, as we've seen the 85 car do a number of times in the past. So he takes no damage. He's okay. Is now pushing a damaged 51 car of Curtis Yancey. Yancey, who got a little bit frustrated there. He saw intentionally whacked Lacey there at the end of that whole exchange. So Benjamin Lacey, I don't think we talked about him. He's only 9 spots above the cutoff as well. This could be a bad sign for Benjamin Lacey if he's in trouble. He's in 15th right now. Again, a lot of those guys near the cutoff are quick. I think Haggy would jump him. Maybe he'd be close. Welch, if he can move up, would jump him. Just of 25 laps to go here as we watch Welch just jumps to the front of this pack because Yancey's off the pace. They're trying to make it up to this front group that is now made up of just Guzik and Eddie Haggy, as well as Jason Greenwell, not on the lead lap but a teammate. But just imagine, Chris, if Benjamin Lacey goes home in the round of 12, a guy that won 3 races this season, won the last, I think, 2 of the regular season. He had all the momentum, didn't win a race in this round, missed a race. Imagine if he goes out in the round of 12. I mean, nobody would have seen that coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't, and I'm hearing a possible wreck here on track, but we just saw Kevin Foster go 1 lap down to the leaders as we now have that 3, and we get the yellow here.
Yes, Nickerson.
Kevin Foster's going to get his wave around.
No, Nickerson, Jackson Knock has gone around somewhere. Where is the 00? He has spun. That's 00 car. It will bring out caution number 3. He was getting pushed by Brandon Jack and just spun him. Just that miscommunication in the exact spot in turn 2 where we saw the second wreck. He, again, no damage. Knock has been spun twice in turn 2. Keeps it off the wall. Look at, Craig, you got to watch that replay there, Chris. That was one of the best pieces of heads-up driving I've ever seen, to just lock it down, really halt it, and barely miss that outside wall. Just a little steering movement at the end. And legally, he will stay on the lead lap because of the moment he was spun at. That might not be true. Knock will go lap down. Will Foster get his lap back? That's the question. Massive implications here. This will really reset the chaos. I think this is where the cautions breed cautions comes in. This may be the start of the final act of a race. But if that saves Knock's season, what a story that will be.
I mean, are you not entertained? I mean, this is madness in the last couple laps with the pit road, and now Knock bringing out the caution. We don't know if Foster is the lucky dog, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. And don't forget, this is semi-fuel mileage race, so these guys are going to be saving under caution. Do guys pit for just fuel right now? Is that going to shuffle up the track, the order on track? There's a lot of things that are about to happen right now. I mean, we're just getting started. We are just getting started here with just about 20 laps to go.
I'm blown away by the finish this is shaping up to be. We'll do that update I was talking about. I just want to see where Knock is going to come out, because I think he will officially drop back a spot. So here we go. Pit stop starting. This could be the final stop of the race for everybody that comes down this time. It is going to be so close, though, Chris. I'm trying to think of what the longest stint we've seen tonight was. We definitely saw 22, and we are under yellow as they pit. So could be the last stop of the race. It's going to be darn close. But the thing you got to remember, the thing that the gamble on here is going to be the extra stops, the green white checkers, I should say. If we get extra laps at the end of this race, that could run guys out of fuel. We've seen that before. That could be huge here. Who comes out first? Mark Allen Bivens will win the race off pit road. It'll be Bivens, Hamilton, then Wilson, Gibson, Haggy, and Guzik, your top 6. Benjamin Lacey will recover from that earlier incident on pit road to come out 7th. Ricky Hart Jr. out of nowhere in 8th. And there you go. Entire field down pit road. As we're going to go check in with a guy who was out of the race, left on lap 72, but we're going to bring him in here for a moment to get another perspective. I think he's been joining us here in the chat in the last couple weeks as well. Let's bring Dawson Guzik here into the broadcast booth, talk to him for a moment as we get ready for the next restart. Hey, Dawson, Chris, and Marshall up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Welcome, Dawson. Boy, we are shaping up for a fun one here. We're gonna bring you in here just for a few laps here before we go back to green. But just you were in the race there for a number of laps. Unfortunately, things sort of fell apart there towards the end, just around you. The 44 car got unfortunately stuck in a couple incidents in a couple moments. But as far as the big picture here, just it's been chaos from our perspective. It looks like a lot of the playoff guys who are up below the cutoff are really stressed, really trying to stay at the front. A lot of the veterans are trying to go to the back. And at what point do you think you hit that light switch and everybody suddenly starts gunning for that win?
I mean, like right now, I would think is when that light switch is going to change, but it's for sure. Yeah, it was getting pretty wild there towards the end of it. When everybody was getting shuffled out during the pit sequences and everything like that. Like if you got put away from the pack, kind of like I did, it was just kind of a shove fest. And it like what happened with me was that the 10 was kind of given a big gap in between the cars in front of me, and we were in such a small gap. It's like you can't leave that kind of a small gap, and I ended up getting into them, unfortunately. But that was my bad, unfortunately. But it's gonna end up being pretty wild here. I feel like at the end, it's definitely gonna come down to a little bit of fuel strategy. I think it's 26 laps to the good, is what gas is, depending on if you're the leader or not. So.
Everybody coming back down pit road again this time. That's been a big thing we've seen this race. I don't think I've ever seen this for every stop of a race, but drivers double pitting on both laps of the yellow, just to try to maximize position, but also maximize their fuel. And that kind of brings me to my next question as far as how tonight's been so different. But for your team, you talk about the guys, and obviously you and Brett working together, but your other team members and keeping the playoffs in mind, who do you think is going to be the X factor for your team and the chances to maximize all the guys with BC Simsport getting into the round of 8?
Well, I think the biggest thing is going to be, so I think Eddie Haggy, our teammate in Brit Racing, he's our satellite. The biggest thing is going to be keeping Brett behind him. I feel like if he can keep Brett right behind him and Brett pushing, which it seems like he's willing to do, with Brett pushing, Brett can just shove like crazy, and it seems like he can stay in that air pocket. That's what we call it for the draft. It's like that little like a quarter to like half a car length is what that air pocket is, and if you could stay in that, I feel like you can just shove the person in front of you like crazy and get yourself pushed out to the lead. I kind of feel like the second lane was the big factor right there. When we took the lead earlier in the race, it seemed like that was working well. The RPMs didn't really drop too much in the corner, and with Brett staying in the pocket there, we were just able to push out to like a 5-6 car length lead there. So.
Well, we are going to jump back to the action here. It's been a pleasure to talk to you here, Dawson. I really appreciate that other perspective, and might jump back to you here towards the end if we have a moment. But here we go. We're going to green. Single file restart here. This is going to be interesting, as it's Bivens, Wilson, Haggy, Hamilton, Lacey. It almost doesn't matter, but Chris, too wide is gone. It looks like we've been got to gravitate in that way. 21 laps to go here at the line. Bivens, a playoff contender, might not need a win, but he needs a good performance, and he will lead us to green here at Talladega. 21 laps to go for the Talladega 125, sponsored by GFR Racing. But, I mean, Chris, single file restart, that's going to be really interesting if this plays a role in the finish. And I don't think guys are going to be doing this too much longer. I think at the end we'll be back to double file if we can help it, if it's not race control forcing the issue.
Yeah, I would certainly say so. And one thing I want to touch on here is I think that was just a technicality for iRacing here with all the wave rounds and EOLs that were just given that kind of mess that we had there for a second. But look at this 84 car. He's coming up here to the front in a hurry. But the 76 car of Mark Allen Bivens sitting up front right now, I do not believe he pitted. So I think he's banking on everybody else having to pit again. But this is an interesting strategy by him. He could be setting himself up for possibly kicking himself out of the playoffs. So I'm curious to see if he did in fact pit. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, that single file restart is gonna take a little time here, but you're gonna see two lines form. But that 97 car, as Dawson was alluding to, I think that he's gonna be looking for his teammates here in a hurry to help him get to the front, as we see the 84 car absolutely rocket past that 76 car of Mark Allen Bivens.
Yeah, monster run there for Lakey. The Ignite RC teammates starting to work together here. And to the contrary there, Chris, for the Bivens fans, don't worry. Mark Allen Bivens is indeed on the same strategy. He did pit on lap 103. He just won straight up the pit road race twice. So he is in contention here, and now behind Blakey and Ramos, non-playoff drivers, and Gibson, a driver above the cutoff. After that, though, we just talked to Dawson about him. Eddie is in a good spot if he can work up with his teammate Brett, who is, of course, was in 10th, just jumped back, and he's up there in the front. So here's what it comes down to, is get your guys you're comfortable with up there up front with you, and everybody's in this front pack. Everybody from Steve Ulrich in 21st all the way up to David Lakey in the race lead is in this front pack. So find your spot, find your guys, get a run going, and put yourself in the front, I think, towards the last 5 laps of this race, as 2 top guys here, 2 guys that are longtime veterans, are on that list we showed earlier of all-time wins leaders. Nickerson and Welch working their way forward. Nick looking for his first win at a super speedway. Welch looking for his first win in over 2 years.
And look at them slide in right behind their teammate of the 15 of Christopher Hamilton. Now you have 4, basically 4. GFR Racing, another 785 is kind of like a, I guess we can call it a satellite team, but those guys are all working together right now, and they slid right in front of who? The 97 of Eddie Haggy, who they're battling to get into the playoffs. So, I mean, this is certainly getting interesting with the 31 of Connor Gibson currently sitting in second. There is just so many things that could possibly happen here as far as playoffs go. But we still have a bit of a ways to go, and I think we're still fixing to have another yellow here in short order. But, man, this is turning into a wild one.
Here we go, folks. I mean, it looks single file. It looks calm right now, but trust me, the moment we jump to 2 lines, we're going to jump to 3, and things are just going to absolutely explode. So David Lakey at the front. This is interesting. Connor Gibson, significant damage from that earlier incident on pit road to the back end of that 31 car, but he's running well. So it makes you wonder how much of an effect that is really going to play. I don't think it's going to significantly compromise his speed, but at this point, any disadvantage on the last lap is going to be critical. And we went from earlier, Chris, having very few playoff drivers in the top 10 to now 10 of the top 13 drivers, all playoff contenders. So, and if you just include Brett Guzik, who's of course locked himself in already, then the top 15, 12 of those guys are playoff contenders. So if you're a guy who's really behind the ball, if you need to make your way in from like a 10 to 20 point deficit like a Knock or a Yancey, if everybody's that close in the playoff order, you're going to have to win. It's as simple as that. And Knock, not particularly close right now. He's back in 16th. He needs to start working his way forward. Same with Yancey in 12th. Guys got to start climbing this ladder. I know we got 17 laps to go, but you cannot afford to be as far back as that if you want to go catch these guys at the front. And at a certain point, I think Gibson is in the best spot.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I put my money on Gibson, but like I said, anything can change here in a moment. And one thing I'm noticing here is, I mean, I've been talking to him a lot all race, but he is my race pick. Now, the 97 Eddie Haggy is starting to fall back. I don't know if he's trying to look for his teammates, like Dawson was saying there, to find that 04 car of Brett Guzik to help him navigate this traffic in front of him. But, I mean, he has really no time to waste. It is go time. I mean, we're coming up on 15 laps to go here. You got to go. And especially with guys like Connor Gibson, Mark Allen Bivens, and Cody Welch in front of you, you can't sit back there too long and get deep into this pack. So, you know, it comes to a point where you can't depend on, I need my teammate. I mean, it certainly helps, but at a certain point, you just need to say, all right, I have to go and do this the hard way.
We go. 15 laps to go this time. Lakey continuing to lead in that 84 car. Night RC in a really favorable position as a team, but it is not over yet. Here we go. Turn number 1. I'm just waiting to see some of these guys work their way up, starting to get in that front pack. Bill Harkins right now, first time we've really talked about the number 12 car. He now moves into the 4th spot in the line, but he is back a couple laps, currently a lap down. So could put himself back in contention for the lead lap here, but I think definitely if this thing really picks up and the leaders start going at it, I think going to want to stay out of the way and make sure he lets them have their fight. But now to the top side, once again, Michael Ramos. He's loved leading tonight, so he wants to do it again. He's going to hope to get some help from the 12 and the 32. 2 cars we haven't talked much about. 2 guys not on the lead lap, but those lap cars, we talked about them a lot tonight, Chris, could start to play into the equation again as Ramos goes to the lead.
And one thing to kind of protect yourself here is, I mean, unless someone spins you, if you're in front of the whole pack, you don't got to worry about crashing into guys that are wrecking. So you just got to worry about the guy behind you, and the car of the 27 car of Michael Ramos and the 84 car of David Lakey. Those guys are pretty good friends. So I know there's probably good chemistry there, and I mean, I don't know if they're working their magic here, but some guys that I see working their magic. Here comes the 04 car right behind him in tow. 97, Eddie Haggy. 83, Jason Greenwell. They're coming to the front here, and they know it's go time. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. He ended up finding his teammates, and they said, all right, let's get on that loud pedal and get this thing moving.
They're in a good spot, just the wrong order right now. The 04 car, the 97 car, going to want to get swapped around if the plan is to have Guzik push Haggy. But, yeah, Gibson falling back a little bit, still in a good spot, would still be above the cutoff, so I don't think he needs to worry too much in his current state. Mark Allen Bivens is in a good spot. He's favorable. So the guys that are just below that cutoff in good places, Haggy right now is not. He's going to need to win this race if Gibson and Bivens stay up as high as they are. Hart's doing a good job to conserve and to keep his spot. The guy I'm once again worried about is Kevin Foster. And Haggy 6 points back, Foster 10 points up. It's not easy, but there is a scenario in which if Foster falls a little bit further back and Haggy can get a few more spots, he can make his way in on points, which would be relatively unforeseen. And same with Cody Welch. I mean, we've talked about all race how conservative he's been, Chris. I mean, we haven't talked about the 85 barely at all, which is almost non-existent. That doesn't happen here in the Bandit Racing League, but I mean, I'm worried. I know he was close. He and Nick had some really good momentum going. Somebody pointed out in the chat, they started 19th and 20th, got up to 4th and 5th. 3 wide as he shoots the gap. Okay, Cody is going forward now. Right as I say that, he jumps in front of the 2 car behind his teammate in the 7. Really wanted to get squared up with his 785 Racing teammate, I guess. But, oh, we're checking up. Is this going to be a route? No, that was a camera angle. Although guys definitely did check up. Something happened there up front, but it was David Lakey, it looks like, dropping out of the front pack. He moves down there into the inside line, but, oh, it takes all the momentum off that inside group. That inside lane might have a chance to get a few spots.
Yeah, the outside lane is going to be coming here in a hurry. I mean, I know the 12 of Bill Harkins, 1 lap down, is sitting up front, but Michael Ramos is sitting out there by himself. He just has the tow from the 12, but, I mean, you're starting to see a lot of shuffling around, right? I think that the 84 car wanted to get behind the 31. I think they were working together pretty well earlier, and you saw the 85 jump in front of the 2 to get behind the 7. I think that is all planned. That is a strategy that is going to play out later here, and I think these guys are like, I'm not banking on the caution. I have to go. We got to get up towards the front and not be a part of this wreck. So I'm curious to see how they would pull this off with the BC Simport boys. With Brett in front of the 97, I would assume that Brett would probably pull down with the 97 in front, and I just don't know where Jason Greenwell would go. I know he is 1 lap down, but he is here to try to serve his purpose and get that car into the playoffs, but he has a tall order ahead with that 31 and the 76 right next to him.
Yeah, just keep an eye on those guys. They gotta start moving their way through. Kevin Foster still 17th. Jackson Knox still 15th. These guys got to start making momentum, especially Knock if he wants to go for this race win. Again, not a bad thing to stay out of trouble, but not what you want if you are a guy like Yancey as well, who just no chance you make it in on points. You got to go up there and get your elbows out. 10 laps to go here. I mean, it's coming down to it, folks. I want to hear one more time. Final guesses. What are you expecting? We got Haggy votes. We got Haggy's getting some support from Mama Goose there in the chat. We got Lakey getting some support in the chat. Number of drivers, of course, Cody Welch there as well. All getting support. Steve Ulrich, I just want to shout out. 25 cars, started 27th, is up to 6th, has come out of relatively nowhere and is in contention for his first career win. Of course, longtime driver in the Bandit Racing League, just hasn't run full-time this season.
Yeah, shout out Steve Ulrich. You know, he helped me out get my my shifter here, so he's come up clutch for me in the past, and he's certainly put in a good performance here lately. But here comes the 85 car of Cody Welch. He's making his way towards the front. He's seeing these boys up here, and look who he's got right behind him. And he's still going, still right up the middle.
Yeah, I don't think the camera fully caught it. He went through like 2 or 3 rows of 3 wide up the middle. That has been his move here tonight. We know he knows how to judge those fine margins. As Nick, waiting for the draft, gets that good run, will now give the push back to him. I think Cody's heading forward. He's shooting that 85 car right up the gap here, and you get excited if you're an 85 car fan. We're going to go to this gap. Is he going to go 3 wide again? He does. He does. Can he get through? He got him. 2 car is going to push him as well. They are going now. The 2 of the best in the series. You could argue on pure talent, maybe the 2 best. They are putting it on full display here right now. That 85 car is on a mission, and the 2 car is going with him. And again, if you're a Welsh fan for the playoffs, you don't need him to win. He doesn't need to win. You just need to finish in a good spot above Bivens, who's currently in 14th, and Gibson, who's currently in, well, now right next to him. They're right beside each other. But, oh, Ramos goes to block. Cody just says, no, I'm still going. The 2 car going to push him by. Are you not a little bit worried, Chris? This is how it always happens. The big moves from Welch. He shoots to the front, and then it all goes wrong. And I hope that's not the case. Same with Nick. Something always seems to go wrong for him late. Or, don't forget, twice I think in the past, he's pushed the eventual race winner to the win on the last lap. I don't think he's going to do it again tonight, especially not if it's one of his biggest playoff rivals at the knockout of the playoffs. But boy, howdy, this is a big one for the 85 car.
And I think right now what you're about to see is this top line, just like Dawson said, it's just channeling a lot more momentum on the straightaways here. And you're going to see this bottom line with Connor Gibson included fall back a little bit here. And there's a pretty significant gap. So if they don't tuck in behind the 04 car, Brett Guzik, they're going to fall like a rock. And if you're looking at this front pack here, you have the 85 currently leading. So he would automatically punch his ticket to the next round. The 7 car, he was in a question there for a couple laps. He's sitting there in 4th. You got the 97 there. Connor Gibson's still in there. The 76 car is falling back a ways, and he's starting to lose touch of this lead pack, so we're going to have to hope that they catch back up. And the 8 car is made up the ground. So, I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts here right now.
Oh, my goodness. 3 wide.
And it's starting to get dicey.
Lakey, big bump to his teammate. That huge push, but Gibson couldn't square it up. So now 3 wide. It's Guzik in the middle. Stuck as his teammate gets a push from Greenwell further up the road. The anxiety here is brutal. I am so nervous for these guys. Just keep your car pointing straight. That's all you want to do. Don't end your season on a dumb wreck. As Jackson Knock in pit road, down pit road he comes. It's got to be almost curtains shut, lights out for the 00 car. Unfortunately, he's got to pit one more time. That brings him out of the lead pack. That takes away one more spot in contention for the next round. As Curtis Yancey, still that damage 51 race car, needs to win, and he's going to have 5 more laps to do it next time by. Holy cow. I mean, so many guys need this here up front. They need this win, and Nick doesn't need it for the playoffs, but you know he wants it bad. Everything to play for here as David Lakey caps off this front pack, and Ricky Hart Jr. has to stay locked in this front group. Look at the gap he's got. Now he's got the momentum. He will bridge that second group up to the front. I was worried we would lose like half the field.
We're wrecking.
Greenwell goes around. Greenwell into Lakey. Lacey, no, Hart's in it. Hart spins. Can he keep it out of the wall? Playoff contender. He does stay on track. That could be crucial for his season. Yancey's around. Curtis Yancey looking backwards, but he stays straight. Multiple cars in that wreck went around, almost lost it, gather it back up, and stay in the race. And if you are a playoff driver, that is crucial to your season. Ricky Hart Jr. could have just saved his round of 8 chances by staying straight and staying out of the wall there.
Wow. I mean, we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time, right? You're hearing the ticking of the clock, and it's just a matter of time before the bomb goes off. And I don't think that's the first one. I think that's one of a couple here, but that was insane. I mean, a couple cars that are involved in the playoffs. I saw the 8 get a little contact there, get into the wall. I mean, I'm not sure if the 76 got in it. The 1 was obviously in it. I mean, there's just so many things that are happening here, and I truly don't think, outside of someone in the bottom half of the top 12 there winning this race, I don't think that we're going to know who actually transfers in until this thing is done and we can calculate all the points out. So we're going to try and get that done for you here on the fly as fast as we can, but man, this is getting wild, and I think that we're going to have to see how it works out here. We may have an unofficial green-white checkered, but we're certainly fixing for some sort of green-white checkered here.
Well, Jose in the chat got his wish, said, I want Haggy, need another crash, and there you go, you got it. And just like that, Eddie Haggy back up into 5th, going to start on the 3rd row here. But, I mean, it's going to be crazy. Let's look at the order here, because Cody Welch going to start as the race leader. I don't think we see... Do we see pit stops here by any chance, Chris, do you think? I wouldn't think so, but it does... It would be an insurance policy, I guess, for if we get some more green-white checkers. We can only get a maximum of 2 here in the Bandit Racing League, so not a huge worry. Plus, it would make your car a little bit more fuel-heavy. They might. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see here, folks, what they decide to do, and it might even be a split strategy here, Chris.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'd be surprised if these guys come down. I think we pitted on lap 103 last time for fuel. I'm sure these guys are clutching it right now. Some guys are... Eddie Haggy coming down pit road. Playing it safe. I did not see that coming, to be honest.
Here we go. Everybody's coming. I like it. I was going to say, I think this is what you have to do. Because that's why I suggested it. I was like, oh, this might be controversial. I would. In this situation, I would pit, especially if you're as far down as Haggy was, even 5th. come down. Worst place he dropped to is 20th. We saw Cody and Nick get 15 spots in a lap and a half. You can do it, and it saves as an insurance policy for if we get some green, white checkers, which these guys probably think we're going to, as just barely Haggy beats Hamilton out of the box, and he wouldn't have if he was not the pole sitter there. So that was clutch, and that's why getting the pole at the beginning of the race may not seem like a big deal at a super speedway, but that front pit box always advantageous. So out of the pits comes Yancey in 17th, Gibson in 18th, Foster in 19th, Hart in 20th. That's big, because I think that comfortably Cody is in right now. I think at this point the win's actually out of the equation. If you're Cody, just stay up front, and I think you can go home and at least make it to see another day in the championship here. But I mean, Knock is an 8th now. We were talking about Knock. I just said a moment ago, Chris said he was pretty much out of it. Now he's an 8th, and right now he wouldn't be in, but a lot closer to the win than he was a moment ago.
Yeah, I mean, certainly he's certainly back in contention now, and I'm going to assume that he has more fuel on board than these guys in front of him. I mean, the only thing that I'd be worried about is, I mean, I know those 785 GFR Racing guys are some of the best at doing some calculations there, but you got to worry that if we do get multiple green, white checkers here, which we're I'm assuming going to get one on an unofficial one, and then we'll be eligible for 2 green, white checkers. If the race doesn't end under the first checkered flag. But if they get multiple green, white checkers here, that 85 car may run out of fuel. And what is that going to do? That's going to put him possibly the last car in the lead lap, or worse, depending on where he runs out of fuel. He may not be able to make it all the way back around. So that could spell trouble for him. But I like the gamble. You're sitting up front. You might as well take the track position and just know that you have your teammate there. And I'm sure there's going to be some games here where they're going to be talking and they're going to get on the gas at the different times, and the 85 car is going to probably drop to the front nose of that 2 car, and they're going to set sail. But man, I mean, this is nuts. And like I said, we're not going to know who actually transferred in and who didn't until the very end of this thing, because the points battle is so close, and there's so many things happening. Like you said, you have some playoff contenders towards the back of the lead lap here, or the back of this pack, and can they do what Cody Welch just did and make their way up to the front and close this points gap? Do the guys at the front of the field wreck? Do the guys at the front of the field run out of fuel? There's so many questions to be had, and we're about getting ready to settle it here. But one thing to note is we are going to use our first green, white checkered attempt here. So how this is going to work is that we will get the green flag. The next time around will be the white flag. If a caution comes out before we get the white flag, we will get another shot at a green, white checkered. If we get the white flag, the next flag ends the race. As we saw similar at Daytona on the first race of the season, this is going to be massive. This is going to be massive. You got to get everything you can here. If those guys behind you, you got to get everything you absolutely can. I don't know what's going to happen here, and I think that we're getting a second green, white checkered here.
I think there's a very good shot, and man, Cody in the lead. This is, and his teammate behind him. I mean, this on paper it couldn't be better for him, but this has got to be stressful. And yeah, man, I can't even fathom. It was a gutsy call. If Welch runs out of fuel, you were saying before, it's going to hurt his chance. Straight up, I'm just going to say it. If Welch runs out of fuel under green, season's over. I think it's what happened at Roval. You know, if you suddenly drop back all these spots to the back end of the lead lap, that's basically putting you out. And there he was above the cutoff. Now he's 3 below. Could be crucial. Here we go, folks. First attempt at a green, white checkered. We could be 2 laps away from declaring our 8 drivers making the round of 8 here in the Bandit Racing League playoffs. Welch is in a good spot, just needs points. Knock needs to win. Haggy needs points or to win. Bivens needs just to stay in the top 5, top 10. And that is your situation. Here we go. Green flag as Welch, like you said, Chris, gets the jump. We'll talk in front of Nickerson. And there is your pairing as Lacey into 3rd. 785 teaming up with GFR. And further back, Action Jackson already ducking around, trying to find gaps to get into the top 5.
Bad restart out of Fahey there. Kind of stacked up the 97. But look who's on the back bumper of this 97 car. It's the 04 car. Let's see how much ground they can make up. But look at Action Jackson up here in the front, bringing Jackson Knock with them. They're blocking all over the track. We're going 4 wide here into 3 and 4, maybe. I don't know. I just throw a blanket over them. We're going to see what comes out at the end.
Here we go, folks. Coming to a white flag. Will we get a caution? If we get a caution before the white, we will go to a green-white checker. Right now, we're green. We're green. Here we go. Stand green. 3 wide off of 4. Not getting shuffled out. Losing that momentum. Remember, he needs to win. Here we go. Welch taking us to the line. This has happened in the past, but he hasn't won while leading on the white. White flag presented by Apex Sim Racing. Is this the chance? Is this the time the 85 finally ends that streak of over 2 years? We've come close a number of times. Could this happen out of nowhere in a race we barely talked about him? Or will one of these drivers who needs a win find a way up? Nickerson dives out, tries to give up on him. Now he does. Will he get help? Cody's getting a push from Ramos. Ramos going to join in behind. The 7 car all the way up to the high side. Welch is getting out front, but he might be too far ahead. Does Ramos have an opening? He goes in front of his teammate. He'll go with his teammate. The 785 guys going to go together. This could not have worked out better for Welch. Off of turn number 4. One more time. Ramos to the front. Welch to the front. Haggy to the front. He's got the opening, but the 2 guys at the bottom are together. Welch is up by himself. It'll be a photo finish. Who gets it? Eddie Haggy wins it at Talladega. Oh my goodness, what a finish. The winner in a race he needed to win with Bivens and Gibson. He had to win to make the championship, and he finds himself on his roof, but he's in the round of 8. What a finish here at Talladega. As Welch, where is Gibson? Welch will make it. Welch is in. I'm going to say it based on points right now. I think Gibson's out, Haggy's in, Welch is in, and Bivens will make it too. Actually, scratch that. Welch might not be in. We will check the points, folks. But what I do know is your winner at Talladega is Eddie Haggy.
What an absolutely insane finish. What about that? I mean, the fans of the Bandit Racing League, if you were not on the edge of your seat for that, I don't know what to tell you, because that was some of the most exciting racing I have seen. I mean, this season has provided us with such crazy racing, and I mean, I couldn't have predicted that. I saw the 97 coming from, like, what, 10th there on the restart. I mean, he had help from the 04 car, but it was ultimately the 99 that shoved him across the line there, sideways for the win. I mean, Brandon Jackson predicted it. He gave it to us and delivered. It wasn't his car, it was someone else's, but man, what a performance and what a crazy finish to round out these playoffs.
Here we go. There he is, your race winner. We'll put him on camera here. Eddie Haggy, teammate of the Guziks here. We were talking about it earlier with Dawson. Dawson, he got it done there, man. What is that at all how you were expecting? Do you think that's how oh, he's out, but he already left the booth, I was going to say, but I don't think that's how they drew it up. There's the fist pumps. He's excited. What a story. I'm trying to do the points in my head here. Welch 5th. If that's not enough, that is insane. Because Lacey's up there. Foster's up there. Who would he have bumped? It would have to be. It would have been Gibson, but I don't think that'll help, because I think Haggy won his way in. Ladies and gentlemen, Cody Welch might be out of the playoffs, and I think he is.
Well, I mean, that is just insane. That is absolutely insane. I still can't get over it. I'm watching it back right now. I mean, that was nuts.
We're gonna go into the interview in 1 minute. We got to get a replay on this. Just that whole finish, because oh my goodness. Okay, back to the checkered flag here, because this kicks off early, because everybody started wrecking about where the Daytona finish line is. So here is a freeze frame. This is coming towards the checkered flag. At this point, where if this was Daytona, Cody Welch won this race. But it's not. It's Talladega, and I talked about that late finish line was going to be crucial. We were 5 wide coming to the line there at one point. Let's get just a freeze frame of the finish. There is the finish, ladies and gentlemen. I've frozen this on your screen. This is how close the margin was. Mark Allen Bivens almost won this race, and if he's out of the playoffs by that close of a margin, that is huge. But he finishes 2nd, which I think holds off Welch. And just incredible. I mean, think about it, Cody, if his season came down to 100 meters, that is insanity. And of course, not even to talk about the barrel rolls and the flipping over Eddie Haggy does after winning the race. I said earlier, I think decent chance somebody wrecks and wins, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, just, well, I'm genuinely almost speechless here, Chris.
I'm going to agree with you, because, I mean, that is not what I saw coming. I mean, I predicted the man to win the race. He went out and did it, but I didn't think it was going to be anything like that. I knew we were in store for an exciting finish, but we're going to have to do the points here and factor this all out. But I couldn't have predicted the round of 12 coming to a close like that. And I mean, what do you think what's going to happen at Talladega? You think that guys are going to get torn up early and be out of the race? I mean, Eddie Hagge, similar to last week with Nick Nickerson, was a lap down for the majority of this race. And he finally linked up with his teammate and he made something happen. But you can't put yourself in any better position than Cody Welch was there. He started getting under pressure from the 27 of Michael Ramos, and that was it. As soon as you start getting those cars battling side by side, you're going to open the door for another car to get that, we'll say, slipstream for the viewers at home. You're going to get that slipstream around the guys in front of you, and you're just going to be able to make that move. And I thought that the 97 was not going to get there, but like you said, with the start-finish line being so much further down into almost basically turn one, that gave him that opportunity and opened that window for him to get out to the outside, and he had just enough to get there. And I mean, if you still got the still frame there, I mean, that it just comes down to inches, really. I mean, I think he won by maybe a nose of a race car.
Well, we are gonna go to your race winner very quickly. I do actually. We're gonna wait one moment because we want this to be a big moment. We might even bring screen. That's the number one rule of broadcasting. You never go to a black screen. But here we go, folks. I'm going to run you through the final playoff graphic. We don't have it. I will make it here just for a visualization during the interview. By 2 points, Cody Welch is eliminated from the Bandit Racing League playoffs ahead of Christopher Hamilton, who drops to 2 points ahead. We have the graphic here. We'll make a proper one. But the order here is incredible. So it's eliminated. So Connor Gibson as well will be out of the playoffs with how well he finished. That's heartbreaking for him. So the 4 drivers who will not move on are Welch, Gibson, Knock, and Yancey. I'm actually going to put the camera on here just so you can see me here. So it'll be Welch, Gibson, Knock, and Yancey who do not move on. But the gap is so small. It's 1,166 points for Welch, 1,167 for Hagge, but he moves on with the win. 1,168 for Hamilton, 1,170 for Ricky Hart, 1,171 is Brett Guzik who moves on with his win, 1,172 for Benjamin Lacey, 1,174 for Kevin Foster, and the 2 seed based on points in this round, Mark Allen Bivens, who almost missed the next round entirely if we had ended 1 lap earlier. That is incredible, Chris. I can't even put into words how rare that is as a racing finish.
Exactly, Marshall. I mean,
unbelievable.
There was just so many things happening there, and it happened obviously so fast. But I mean, I don't understand how you get any better of a finish to that than in a round of this playoff format than what we just had there. And I mean, I'm gonna say, I said it in weeks past. I'm gonna say it again. This has been hands down the most exciting season of the Bandit Racing League. I mean, the finishes that we've had have finished in such dramatic fashion, and every week I think there's no way we can top that one. There's no way we can top that one. And I mean, this one, I thought the Brett win was pretty dramatic with his throwback paint scheme there, and I still think it is. But man, this one is crazy for a first career win and to lock yourself into the next round. I mean, this 97 car has found something different in there, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, those BC Simsport boys, and I'm sure we're going to hear from him there, and I'm here soon, but he's going to have a lot of excitement because I know that we were actually texting earlier this week about him possibly going out and getting this win, so it's awesome to see him finally get it done.
Here we go. We're gonna bring him in, and I'm gonna go even a step further. I'm going to bring the teammates in. We are doing. Hello, Eddie Hagge. Welcome to the broadcast booth. We're bringing the whole gang in tonight. This is going to be first ever on the Bandit Racing League broadcast on FSRN. We're bringing the teammates in with you here, Eddie Hagge. First career Bandit Racing League win at Talladega. You do it to get into the playoffs, and we just talked about it. You were 1 spot lower, and you wouldn't make the round of 8. You had to win, and you did. You did it with the guys we bring in the chat tonight. How does it feel, man? You were so excited on Skype. It doesn't get bigger than this. What is going through your head right now?
Man, it was awesome. It was quite a race. I didn't speed. I missed the entrance on pit road and was down a lap for most of the race. Was really mad about that. And we clawed ourselves back into it as a team and worked really well with Brett and Sean and Jason and Dawson when he was still there. And it's a team effort, man. And just it's crazy about Talladega is the last 100 yards. You know, Cody's leading, and it's just I think we won by like 4 feet, and I couldn't even really do a burnout, man. I hit the wall so hard, but I just have to be thankful. And then Mark Allen, man, he's my Team Chevy teammate, but team manufacturer teammate. So I'm really appreciative of him and all the people that helped us. Man. It was a great race. I hope we gave your fans something to watch. It must have been pretty entertaining.
Oh boy, did you, that genuinely, that's my favorite finish in Bandit Racing League history. Mark Allen Bivens, to his credit, he'll finish. He was the 2 seed in points after tonight. He'll make the round of 8 as well. But I want to go to the teammates, because we had Dawson jump up here in the booth after leaving the race, and he was talking about you were the one that the guys were looking for. That all of the BC SimSport guys wanted that 97 car in the next round to get the win. And I'll throw it to the teammates, because he said there was definitely a big plan. You wanted Brett in the equation. You wanted Jason up there to push. So I'll throw to one of the teammates there. Just what was it you guys were managing to do that there was always one of you nearby? And what does it feel like to help a guy like Eddie that obviously needed it for points and definitely deserved that win?
Yeah, it's just communication, right? I mean, we were talking, knew kind of the down and distance, and that Eddie needed to be up there towards the front or potentially win. I wasn't in the playoffs and pretty wounded, so just going to do anything I could to make sure that we were pushing. No crazy blocking or anything like that, but just pushing to get on up there, and yeah, just a lot of comms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
mean, no,
Yeah, I was behind Eddie there for most of the race, I would say, at least the second half. And what we were trying to do, we were just trying to make our situation work in the best scenario we could. We had that late yellow. We didn't know if we should come down or not, because we didn't know if there was gonna be like another green white checkered or something like that. Maybe we couldn't make it on fuel, so we splashed there at the end. And I just told Eddie, like, if we're in the same line, I'm just gonna stay on your bumper as long as I can. And I didn't stay on the back of his bumper as long as I would have liked to ride it all the way up to the checkered flag. But once we got pulled back there, I was like, well, it looks like Mark Allen's gonna push him. So it all worked out.
Well, and we got trained by Nick and Cody and all those guys. And when Brett was getting kind of hung up before that last yellow, I was getting kind of worried. But the yellow kind of created another restart, and we were able to get some good pushes at the end.
Well, I didn't mean to put the pressure on here in an interview contest, your first career interview. And we brought all the guys in with you. I like this environment of having the whole team, because this really is...
It's a team effort.
It's such a victory for the whole team, because now, all the guys you could get into the round of 8 are in the round of 8. And, 25% of the entire field in this round of 8. And you just talked about Mark Allen Bivens you worked well with. He's into... This could not have gone better for you guys. And GFR almost got caught with their pants down. They almost lost 2 guys here in this cutoff, just barely make it in. But... just incredible. I'm going to leave it to you, because I always like when we just let a first-time winner maybe talk a little bit about themselves, what this means, and thanking the teammates. I put the pressure on you here because we brought them in, so you got to say nice things. But friends and family, anybody you want to shout out? You had a lot of support on YouTube tonight, specifically, more than I've ever seen, and what a night to get it. Whatever you want to talk about, man, now's your chance.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm appreciative of certainly the teammates on the track, but off the track, just really grateful for obviously my family, my parents, and my brother. Always supporting me. I know they're watching right now. Actually, we're on a family vacation. I drove home just for this race. I'm heading straight back after this. But that's how important Talladega is. And thankful to my friends that tuned in, and all my partners, Jose Landscaping, EP Wealth Advisors, and Maggot HR Consulting. It's great companies that support me and our team. And I'm very thankful. Very thankful always to you guys. You and Chris do a great job. I hope Chris is happy. And then Bill and all the admins, everybody that makes this league so special. It's hard to win, and I'm always looking at my stat sheet and disappointed it isn't better. But I know, a win in this league means more than certain other leagues I could go and win in. And, even if it's at Talladega, I know people say it's whatever, it's all luck, but there's some skill involved, and you see the same guys, leading the race at the end. And I'm glad we finally completed a race and didn't. We crashed, but we crashed after we won.
Exactly.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable, Eddie. I am so happy for you. We got Chris, the broadcast, with Chris was just talking about you were talking to him earlier this week. Chris, you got anything you want to say real quick?
Hey, man, I just want to say congrats, man. I know we were talking about it earlier this week about you going to get a dub, man. But, hey, mission accomplished, dude. And I'm so happy for you, all the guys at BC SimSport. I know we were working on getting someone other than Brett in victory lane, but
it's been tough, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a grind, and you finally did it, and you did it in probably the most dramatic fashion. So you definitely got to go back and watch this broadcast. I just I sent you the race winner graphic there. So
Thank you.
yeah, have fun and congrats, man. Welcome to the round of 8.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you,
will be
man.
talking about you plenty for the next 4 weeks because you are going to be one of the guys going for a title. Congratulations, Eddie! First career win. Join the legends, and yeah, if you want to talk about a clip that's going to get played in every Bandit package for the rest of the time, you were the focal point of it. So there you go, my man.
Awesome.
Enjoy your week. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, and we will talk to you in the next couple.
All right, thank you guys.
There we go. Oh my goodness.
That's awesome.
What a moment. We got to get all you guys out of here.
Before that's whoops.
There we go. Everybody's out. It's a big party. And just like that, everybody is out. Congratulations to Eddie Haggy. Unbelievable here. That was it's so much fun. We had to get everybody in because it was such a team effort, as Dawson was alluding to earlier. And now it's time for a guy who, the graphics happen to be wrong, does have a win in the Bandit Racing League at a super speedway. He comes so close tonight, but he does make the playoffs. We're actually going to go, if Chris, if you're available, we're going to throw it to you if you want to interview tonight's second place finisher, Mark Allen Bivens.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here he is, Mark Allen Bivens, now in the broadcast booth.
Mark, it's Chris up in the booth with Marshall. You got a copy?
Gotcha.
That was some exciting racing there, and I got to tell you, for a little bit, it looked a little worrisome. You know, you got off cycle there a little bit. You're almost at the tail end of the lead lap, but you rallied back. You finished second, and I mean, it didn't go without a battle. So just kind of run us through your race tonight, and how'd you end up finishing second?
Oh man, I don't even know how to like rerun all of that. Everything unfolded. It went downhill, went uphill. I just followed God's plan throughout the entire race and went through it. And when that caution came out, when the four of us were on the tail end of the lead lap, my mom started texting me and she said, "Go do this." So then I started rallying up front. So thanks, Mom.
Mean, yeah, I mean, I can't say how exciting of a finish that was, and you were in a situation where, you know, you needed a decent finish. You know, you couldn't just ride around and just take a good finish. So you did exactly what you needed to do. You rallied back, and like I said, it was definitely a tough go. But I mean, we're looking at the points here, and it does appear as though you did make it into the next round. So tell me a little bit about how you're going to approach the next round, and how do you keep this thing rolling against the championship 4?
We're just gonna try not to do what we did at the intermediates the last couple weeks, because we go up front, then we fall back and just never regain. It's either I put myself in a situation I don't need to be in, or I just have bad luck throughout it, and I'm just gonna enter this next round with a whole new mindset and have my sights set on Homestead.
Well, Mark, I heard how excited you were in the race chat. I heard it coming through the speakers there. So we'll let you get back to celebrating there with the boys. I know that was an exciting finish there. But before you go, do you have any people you want to thank at home?
Man, I got a list. I like to thank TWR, 213 somewhere, Eddie Haggy for being there at the perfect time. Me and him always work together well. Nolan Gross for keeping me calm throughout that entire race. The four of the people that were linked up with us that helped us stay on the lead lap, and all my family and friends. Let's go chase it.
Awesome, man. Well, keep that momentum going. Welcome to the round of 8, and hopefully we'll talk to you when it comes down to the time for the round of 4, man. Congrats.
All right, thank you.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, Mike. You almost had me screaming Mikey like Daryl Waltrip there for the last lap. But talk us through that last lap. That Chevy Camaro looked really strong all night long. You led a bunch of laps, and it just didn't quite come to fruition. But I mean, you brought it home third. So just kind of talk us through the end there and what you saw.
Yeah, so actually, let me turn on the broadcast. I'm sorry. Yeah, so when we got the green, we knew the GFR team was up front, and had Brandon Jackson there in front of me, and luckily I had David, my battle right behind me, and as we got to the white and we came around, we had a good head of steam, and we weren't really sure where GFR was going to run. Right, they're running in the middle, and so we took a look to the outside. And David was actually the one that called out the inside, so we both dove down there. And what we didn't really advertise very well was that our intention was really to kind of get up there, and we were thinking about helping out Cody. The Cody at one point I think came down in front of me as we were getting the run along the yellow line, and I was like, okay, this is good. We're gonna push Cody into 3 and 4, not knowing what was happening on the center or the outside lane. And eventually he did have to go up and try to get a block on Eddie, I believe, which kind of opened it up for us to continue the push along the yellow to the line. But yeah, that finish was awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it right now. I think that was probably one of the best finishes in Bandit Racing League history. But just to talk a little bit about yourself, I know you've been in and out of the Bandit Racing League here as of late with your scheduling and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on, and if you're gonna finish out the season with us. I know we only got a handful of races left, or what's the future looking like for you?
So I really don't know, to be honest. I know I will not be here for next season, but yeah. So with this season, the struggle's really just been the military, right? Just multiple exercises, getting ready for some events, and then late in the fall I'll deploy, and won't be here for the next season. But getting ready for that deployment is obviously the priority unfortunately over Bandit. But Bill has been really acceptive of it, and allows me to come in when I'm able to be here on Wednesday nights. And the league is been very well open armed with me being able to pop in and out, and being acceptive of my absence. We didn't want to come into any of the races and wreck anybody. And I think we saw that at Auto Club and a couple others where we were battling for the win. I didn't want to put anybody in a predicament where I would take them out of the points chase, and today was the same thing. Try to keep it as clean as we could. That way I didn't come in on my very rare races and throw a wrench in anybody's system.
Well, I'll speak on the behalf of the Full Send Racing Network as well as the fans over at home. We thank you for your service, and I know we got a handful of races to go, and we hope that you can make the rest of them. And I mean, you've been up there contending pretty much every single week since you've been back here. So hope you can keep doing that. But before we let you go, do you have anybody you want to thank at home, or any other sponsors that you want to thank?
Me, man, I don't have any sponsors. No, I thank you guys for always putting on an awesome broadcast. I thank my team, especially today, David pushing me up there to the front on that last lap. And then thank everybody, everybody in the league for giving me a time on Wednesdays to break away from the stresses of work and kind of get to put my hair down and relax. So thank you guys for letting me be here.
Really good shot at it.
Yeah. Missed about a couple inches, right? No, thank you guys.
Next time. See ya, bud. Thank you.
Bye.
There you go. Sorry, folks. My mic there for the last segment was just disconnected, but was just setting up the interview there. So there you go. Michael Ramos, third place finisher here at Talladega in what is one of the best. I think genuinely my favorite finish we've ever had. And sorry, I was just working in the background there as we sent it over to Chris. I was just working in the background here on our graphic here for the final results of the playoff bracket going into next week. Just had to get that made up for you guys. So I'm going to throw it very quickly. Just need to get it saved and exported here, Chris. So I will throw it to you. It's late here. We don't want to keep you guys up too late. We're going to go through our final sponsor thing in just a moment. But just Any final thoughts? I know you probably got a lot to say, but just absolutely anything you got. Now's your time here, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, this whole season leading up to this point has just been like a precursor to everything that's been going on in this round. I mean, we started it out with Nickerson dominating at the Roval, and then I believe we went to Darlington after that, where we saw an incredible performance by Brett Guzik. Last week, we saw Nick rally from laps down to come back and win at Chicagoland, and here tonight, in the most dramatic fashion possible, Eddie Hagge goes out and wins the thing. And I gotta say, I've now got 2 wins on the race winner picks. I thought I was gonna go the 0 for a million, but we got 2 this season. So no, it's super awesome to see a guy like that win, who's been trying so hard and putting in the work to get it done. So it's good to see him in victory lane. And man, the round of 8, I mean, the drivers that we got in there, incredible talents. I mean, I know that we're missing some big names in there that we'll discuss here momentarily, but that just goes to show you can be so consistent all season long, but if you're not consistent in the playoffs, if you don't carry that momentum into the playoffs, it's going to bite you, and it's going to hurt for some, but, you know, they still got to, you know, be super, super proud of their efforts this season, and to even make it into the playoffs is huge. So, you know, kudos to all the drivers that made it in. Kudos to the drivers that are going to continue to the next round. But as always, we got to talk about my end of things. You know, the social media work. Follow Minute Racing League on Instagram and Facebook. We have all of our playoff updates there every single week. We have the race winner updates. You know, we have our race updates, when we're going to be on and where we're running next. So be sure to follow there. And obviously with the rounds coming to an end here, we're getting close to the championship. So it's definitely stuff you want to be in tune with if you're a Bandit Racing League fan. So we certainly appreciate you guys checking us out there. But man, Marshall, I don't think there has been a better broadcast. I think I've said that like 4 times, broadcast. I don't think there's been a better finish in the Bandit Racing League history than what we saw tonight. I mean, I couldn't have scripted that one any better. I mean, I'm pretty sure Eddie came from around 10th or 12th in 2 laps to go ahead and win that thing, and I thought he was out. I mean, I didn't think that move to the outside of Cody was going to work, but it was just when they started wrecking, it was game on, and he just stayed in it just that much longer. And I actually think the contact from Brandon Jackson, that little punt that he had going sideways across the line, is what ultimately you know, helped him out there and get the win. But yeah, we'll have to discuss the points here as we head into the next round. But man, what a race!
Yeah, I can't get the smile off my face. It was so much fun. It's heartbreaking. We're gonna go to the graphic here. Here are your final results after round of 12 here in Bandit Racing League. It is going to be Nickerson, Guzik, Hagge, Bibbins, Foster, Lacey, Ricky Hart, and Christopher Hamilton, the 8 drivers that will fight it out for a championship. The 4 we've lost: Cody Welch, Connor Gibson, Jackson Knock, and Curtis Yancey. I know we're all talented. Everybody's talented here in the Bandit Racing League that makes the playoffs, especially this year with the tighter restriction. But man, heartbreaking for all these guys that I'm just going to say, Welch was my championship pick, and your championship pick, sorry, and he's out in the round of 12. Just unreal. I mean, the Ultimate Commentator's jinx once again, apparently, but like, goodness, man, like Welch, Gibson, the consistency, top 5 in points this year. Knock almost made it there at the end, and Yancey came close to winning it too. He's had a ton of pace this year. He won a race this season, let's not forget. So, man, just what a season, what a round. Unbelievable. There is your bracket. The seeding is based on wins followed by points total. So Christopher Hamilton almost eliminated in the round of 12, which would have been equally, in my mind, as big of a shock as Welch going home as he has. But that doesn't take away from the season at all from Welch. Cody can still go for wins. He's still going to try to. I'm curious to see what a Cody that has nothing to lose is like. And remember, Cody Welch fans, each and every week could be that first win, and there are some good tracks for him coming up. So don't leave. Don't stop tuning in just because Cody is out of the playoffs. There's so much more to talk about. There's so many more storylines, and we will get back to them in 2 whole weeks because we have a week off. Don't forget next Wednesday, but we will be back. Chris and I are going to put some big stuff together. We're going to have a really fun broadcast to start off round number 2, and this season, tonight, it's just going to be more of that energy. I'm going to make this the fastest read-through we've ever had. Okay, folks, here we go, because we need to get you guys home and to bed. So, iRacing, sim that puts us all on. We know this. Bandit Racing League is is the sim or the series we're broadcasting tonight. Apex Sim Racing, premier place for all things wheels and accessories. You want to get started in sim racing, that's a great place to go. Great premier products, genuinely. We wouldn't be endorsing it if we didn't think they were one of the best in the business. Link to their stuff is in the description below if you want to get started in racing. Thank you to Perfect Shine Auto Spot, as always, courtesy of tonight's sponsor, the entire GFR Racing team. All GFR drivers made it through tonight into the playoffs, so could not have asked for any better for themselves. Congratulations to all of GFR Racing's team, and thank you so much for sponsoring not only the broadcast but the series as a whole. As tonight's race sponsors, Track Camps and Gourmets, custom cameras for iRacing. We give some cool camera angles courtesy of them each and every week. Go check out their website below to get their services for broadcast or commercial. Just make sure you get a license if you're going to broadcast their stuff. EvanWallmedia.com, we thank Evan, as always, made the graphics package that runs the backbone of this series. Go check out his stuff out at EvanWallmedia.com. Butt Kicker, really cool product for your sim racing rig. Butt Kicker is a premier device in the world of racing. It's bass boosting, essentially seat add-ons that give you that rumble, that authentic vibration to add to your sim rig. Go check them out. Genuinely one of the coolest products you can add to enhance your sim experience. Homes of Racing, finally, premier products similar to Apex Sim Racing. They have some of the best wheels in the business. Bill Harkins has advocated his for a number of months. He loves it, and you might too. Go check them out at moserracing.com. Geezer Authentics, finally, is your place for all things merch. Don't forget, we got new Brett Guzik merchandise, as well as Kevin Foster, Nick Nickerson. Eddie Haggie's got merch too. Don't forget, you want to celebrate your race winner today? Eddie Haggie merch at geezerauthentics.com. And finally, simracerhub.com, your place for all things points and to check out each and every update of the Bandit Racing League even before we tell you on the broadcast. With that, I'm going to wrap it right up. It has been a really long night, folks. I hope you guys have enjoyed, as I'm sure you have. Again, one of the best finishes we've ever had. I had a ton of fun. And that'll wrap us off, folks. For myself, for Chris Ferreira, for the entire Bandit Racing League, this has been the round of 12 in the Bandit Racing League Season 11 playoffs. The Talladega 125, won by Eddie Haggie, getting his first career win. We will see you in 2 weeks. Don't forget, folks, we will be back. Let's actually throw up the schedule one more time. I can't speed through this too quick. Going to the schedule. Next week is Michigan in 2 weeks. That's a big racetrack. That's going to be one that's fun. I love Michigan. Then it's Bristol, Richmond, and don't forget Phoenix is in there. It's not on the graphic, but it's where the round 2 cutoff graphic is. August 2nd, the week before, that'll be the cutoff before Homestead, where we declare a champion on August 9th. Have a great rest of your week, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a pleasure, as always. Great interaction tonight. You guys were so much fun to talk to. Congratulations to Eddie Haggie and all of his fans. And we will see you all in a few weeks for Bandit Racing League's next round in season number 11 on Full Send Racing Network.